Ling Chen's sudden movements caused Tian to become incredibly tense, and she subconsciously shrunk back towards his body. What happened? Ling Chen stared in direction of where the noise was coming from for quite some time, before shaking his head. Looks like it was nothing, I'm probably being too sensitive. Just now when he beat the rock monster, he felt some kind of strong force directed at him. In that moment he felt suffocated, but the feeling was fleeting and the memory of it felt more like a hallucination than reality. Was it really a hallucination though? Let's go, we'll see what's ahead. Ling Chen continued forwards as he picked up Tian's hand. But he is now significantly slower, and his expression was grave. He'd been at death's door many times before, so normally he would never question his intuition, but even Xiao Hui didn't have a reaction to it. After crossing 2 mountain ridges, he had still achieved nothing and it was already 7 p.m. As he was getting ready to go offline with Tian, there were several howling noises that could be heard ahead. And suddenly, several dark figures jumped out behind rocks as high as 2 meters tall. Although they were 1 meter tall and completely made of rock, they had a humanoid head, body and limbs. On the heads was only one eye, and below it, a big mouth. At a height of 1 meter, it was really fat and in one of its hands gripped a sturdy stone mallet. A group of humanoid rock devils had unexpectedly appeared. Ah! It's a rock person, with one eye. Tian called out in alarm. There were 5 fat rock people, all of them making strange sounds. They looked so heavy but they were surprisingly agile. In an instant they appeared before their eyes. Rock Devil, Category, Monster, Level, 30, Grade, 2-star Elite, HP, 5100. Ordinary rocks that have been affected by Death's breath which turned them into rock devils. They have a tough body and high agility but low intelligence, functioning only by instinct. Talents: 50% immunity to earth attacks, high defense, high move speed, attacks have a low chance of stunning. Attack moves: Rock Mallet, uses the rock mallet in hand to attack a target, 10% chance of a critical hit, high probability of knockback. Weakness: weak to wind attacks, wind resistance -50%. What he fought before was a defenseless lowest-ranking rock devil. After walking through 2 mountain ranges, he is suddenly faced with level 30 monsters that were 2-star elite. These kinds of 2-star elite monsters always appear in groups. Ling Chen had only seen something similar before in the Forgotten Cavern back in the newbie village. Not only does it not make him anxious, it actually made him excited, because this big wave of 2-star elites were worth a lot of skill points. Tian, make sure you protect yourself. Ling Chen warned Tian before rushing out to meet the rock devils. Left hand holding the Zephyr Blade and in the other, the Great Ravager, Ling Chen overlapped them and mercilessly attacked through them. Papapapapapapa. -2400, -2400, -4782, -2401. Letting out a strange cry as the damage values appeared, all 5 rock devils were hit and fell to the ground as Ling Chen flew by. One of them had already been killed, leaving the rest behind lying on the floor unable to get up. These 2-star elites however were not by all means weak. If a player of the same level were to fight them they would need to be careful. A group like this was naturally a little bit threatening. But for Ling Chen, to not be killed by him would only be because they were lucky enough to have high HP. Go, Little White. With the clear command, 4 little white rabbits surrounded the rock devils that were still lying on the floor. Each one was targeting one rock devil, throwing a radish, no a carrot at them. -881, -878, -865, -892 with 4 little whites, 1 for each was perfect. The lucky 4 rock devils each let out a weak howl before dispersing back into crushed stone. Ding, you have successfully killed 5 2-star elite rock devil, prestige +260, skill points +260. If it was a party that defeated the 2-star elites, then the prestige value and skill points will be assigned based on contribution. The damage these rock devils sustained primarily came from Ling Chen, thus Ling Chen obtained most of the prestige and skill points. But, to Tian, these skill points are useless, because all her skills were not upgradable. The strength of her summons increase as her level increases. Ha! How stingy, all 5 2-star elites didn't even drop a single item, not even a copper item. Looking at the crumbled rocks, Tian mumbled with discontent. Ling Chen was also grumbling internally, these rock devils were way too stingy. Not even a feather was dropped. If a level 1 didn't drop anything, that is to be expected, but these were level 32-star elite. This was a small group of 2-star elites, so that means there are stronger monsters ahead. Ling Chen looked at the time, and said, Tian, I'll be going offline first, I'll continue playing later. It's time for dinner. Okay, that's fine, I started to feel hungry just then as well. After Tian had finished speaking and they prepared to go offline, Xiao Hui started to cry out, and started running towards a small hole. After running for 3 meters, his horn lit up with a gray light. Ling Chen was familiar with this light. Xiao Hui had sensed some kind of treasure and only when it went to the place of the treasure would his light shine. He was suddenly aware, and rushed over. Xiao Hui, did you find something? Wu, Xiao Hui growled, rubbing its body against Ling Chen and then took a step forwards. Ling Chen stopped logging off and dragged Tian with him to follow Xiao Hui. In his heart, he kept repeating. Xiao Hai, you have to find it. According to the many experiences before, Xiao Hui's detection range is pretty big, so when his horn glows it doesn't mean that the item is close by. The closer he gets, the stronger the light on Xiao Hui's horn glowed. After going forward for a few meters more, Xiao Hui stopped. But the light on the horn still wasn't at its brightest, which meant there was still some traveling to do. Ling Chen also stopped and looked ahead. In his line of sight there were 2 completely different mountains. The left one was quite steep, its ground almost vertical and reaching into the sky. If you looked around, there was nothing that compared to its height. But the one on the right was much lower in comparison, its altitude was probably about 50 meters. Its surface was especially smooth, which is strange given the region was surrounded by rugged rocks and mountain ranges. Xiao Hui, is it here? Ling Chen said while looking at Xiao Hui. Xiao Hui shook its tail, looking at the tall mountain but also looking at the shorter mountain. The horn on its head continued to glow, its behavior made it look like it was hesitating. Only after quite some time, did it finally start moving forwards, heading towards the unusual smooth ground. Hush! Just as Xiao Hui's claws touched the ground, 6 rays of earthen yellow light arose ahead, and a wave of strange roars followed. The 5 rock devils that they had previously faced appeared in front of them, and behind them was a darker-colored rock devil that was at least 3 times the size of those 2-star rock devils. Rock Devil King, Category, Demon, Grade, Lord, Level, 30, HP, 50,000. The Rock Clan's strongest leader, with a strong body and a break ability, but still low intelligence. Will order various rock devils to defeat any invaders. Talent, 50% resistance to earth attacks, very high defense, each attack has a 15% chance of stunning the opponent for 2 to 3 seconds. Earth type, immune to stat drop effects. Attack skills, bombarding mallet, raising a great rock mallet, it fiercely bombards all enemies within 3 meters in front of it. It deals high damage and the cast time is very short. There is a 20% chance that it explodes on impact, dealing 100% of the target's strength to itself. Demon King Roar, when its HP is lower than 60%, it will let out a roar, raising its own and surrounding rock monsters' physical attack strength by 20%. Rock Explosion, it hits the ground with the Great Mallet, creating a series of explosion in the soil in an area. Damages all targets within a 5-meter radius and also knocks them down. Medium cast time, the Great Mallet will be raised up high before this skill is cast. Greater Rock Explosion, cast upon death. When HP reaches 0, its body will explode. The energy released will have a powerful impact on the surrounding 10 meters. Deals extremely high damage. Cast immediately upon death, no preemptive actions. Weakness, weak to wind attacks, wind resistance -50%. The 5 rock devils looked exactly like the one they had encountered before, but there was also a rock devil king. Ling Chen noted that the rock devils and the rock devil king dropped down from the sky. They clearly didn't originate from this place, it actually looked like they had been summoned. A level 30 lord and 5 2-star elites, this was hardly a formidable lineup as Ling Chen had already killed 3 celestial bosses in this world. He pushed Tian behind him and immediately started charging towards them, shouting, "Strong Gale." Upon the Great Ravager and the Zephyr Blade was a weak green tinge. One skill of Zephyr Blade was, Strong Gale, which could transform all attacks into wind, which was what these rock devils were weak to. They had a -50% resistance will wind attacks, which mean wind attacks would deal 150% damage to them. The rock devils made their strange cry in unison while lifting up their mallets. They turned to rush forwards, moving shoulder to shoulder in a tidy row, trying to ensure that Ling Chen's attack range couldn't reach them all at once. The Rock Demon King was behind them, unmoving, it seemed like it didn't fight unless it had to. The corner of Ling Chen's mouth twitched, and his right hand swung left while his left hand swung right, creating 2 huge green semicircle arcs. These hit all of the rock devils before they could even get into range to attack. Papa -36003598720036000. Because of Strong Gale, Ling Chen's attacks dealt 50% more damage to these rock devils. With 2 overlapping Ling Tian breaks, they should have been killed in a flash, there was no need for Tian to clean them up. His lip curled as he kicked away the rubble. Ling Chen then took a moderate pace towards the Rock Devil King. The lord that he was facing right now, any other player would still be unable to defeat it. But to Ling Chen, the monsters before him were just trash. With 2 of the strongest occupations, and 2 celestial weapons, plus his ability to transcend human agility and battle consciousness, this lord was no threat to him at all. -60826044-6021120448-1202260025 in a 3-second window, 6 Ling Tian slashes were cast and 2 of them were critical hits. The Rock Devil King's 50,000 HP was reduced to less than 2,000. The high damage values caused even Tian to cry out in shock. After 3 rounds of attacks, Ling Chen stopped attacking and immediately started running away, attempting to leave the 10-meter radius. As the effect of Moon Shadow came to an end, the Rock Devil King's mallet missed, hitting the ground and raising dust into the air. But Ling Chen had already reached Tian's side, which was 20 meters away from the Rock Devil King. The Zephyr Blade in his left hand changes into Soaring Cloud and is fired towards it. Pa! -3,680. The Soaring Cloud's damage was weaker than the Zephyr Blade, especially now that the Zephyr effect was lost. Soaring Cloud's damage was weak, but it was enough to completely deplete the Rock Devil King's HP. The Rock Devil King then let out a strange desperate roar before its body exploded. Boom! Crushed stones filled the air, there was dust everywhere and the fierce explosion made the ground shake. The Rock Devil King's death skill was truly formidable. If it weren't for Xiao Hui's ability to detect and give Ling Chen the information about the monster, he probably would have taken significant damage as he killed the monster. But now, this self-destruction didn't even leave a scratch on Ling Chen. Ding, you have successfully defeated a LV 30 Lord Rock Devil King, fame +300, skill points +300. Wah! Big Brother is so strong. You can deal with such a scary monster so quickly. Tian looked at him with adoration as if there were stars in her eyes. After being in this game for so long, she was very aware of the strength of these Lord Monsters. But this Lord Monster, in addition to the 5 2-star elites, were all cleared out so effortlessly. "Hey, it's just that you're weak," Ling Chen said jokingly. In order to ensure Tian's safety, he used the cleanest method he knew, which of course made it very easy. However, if he was seen by the previous owner of the Lunar Scourge, they would have definitely scolded him. Using the Lunar Scourge's OP skill Moon Shadow against a lord, how can you feel satisfied and happy about this kind of bullying? Have you no shame? The place where the Rock Devil King exploded left a crater, which was surrounded by rubble. In the pit, a faint gold light could be seen. Could it be gold equipment? Ling Chen immediately walked over and squatted by the hole. There were 2 pieces of equipment inside, one was glittering gold and the other silver. One of them was a gold-grade equipment while the other was a silver-grade equipment. The silver equipment was an exquisite ring. Additionally, there was also a stone fragment that was glittering yellow through the soil. The Rock Devils were so stingy, but their leader on the other hand was quite generous. Rock Devil Robe, Category, Coat, Grade, Gold. Equipment Requirement, LV 30 and above in a magic occupation, Elementalist, Priest or Summoner. It seems like a regular magic occupation robe and has a slight smell of soil. It will occasionally release a strange yellow light. Defense plus 63, Spirit plus 15, Constitution plus 12, Resistance to Earth attacks plus 7%, grants invulnerability to petrification. White Jade Ring, Category, Ring, Grade, Silver. Equipment Requirement, LV 15 and above in a magic occupation. A perfectly formed white jade ring, it had been lost for a very long time before being picked up by the Rock Devil King. MP plus 150, MP consumption minus 15%. 2 equipment, 1 gold robe and 1 silver ring which both suited a magic occupation. Ling Chen couldn't help but wonder how this close combat physical attack lord managed to drop 2 magic occupation equipment. He handed over the robe and the white jade ring to Tian. "It's your lucky day, both of the equipment are suitable for you to use. You can put this ring on right away, but as for the robe you'll have to wait until you're LV 30. They may not be the best looking, but their stats are pretty good." A gold equipment stats were not just pretty good. Even though players were, on average, around LV 30, gold equipment was still very rare. To have them would have made many players boil with envy. It's a ring. And a gold equipment. Tian's best equipment all came from Ling Chen, but she still hadn't gotten a ring. Seeing the white jade ring, she cried out in excitement and took it from Ling Chen's hands, immediately putting it onto her right hand's middle finger. She then opened her hand for Ling Chen to see. "Big brother, have a look, does it look good?" The wonderful workmanship of the white jade ring was evident. It seemed like the ring was made of the purest ice and snow. The white ring wrapped around her finger, unexpectedly complemented by the gloomy surroundings. Ling Chen looked for a while and nodded. "It looks good." Her hand was small and nothing in the world was as beautiful, it looked even better than real jade. The hands were a woman's second face and Tian's face and hands were both perfect. Once she grew up, she might have the same kind of insane beauty as Yunmeng Xian. Hehe, I think it looks nice as well. I guess I'll just put it on. As for this robe, I'll work hard to get to LV 30 and then I'll put it on. Tian nodded happily, retracting her palm and looked at the ring for a bit longer before putting her hand down while putting away the robe. Other than those 2 equipment, the Rock Devil King also dropped a stone fragment. Intermediate Defense Crystal, Category, Energy Crystal, Grade, Intermediate. Attributes, Earth, Effect, Defense plus 9%. This piece could only be found in the heart of the royal city, it couldn't be bought in the market. Ling Chen also gave this to Tian. He didn't need any defense, as those who couldn't defeat him were no real threat to him, and for those who could, they were so strong that the additional defense points would be pointless. It would be more useful to just give it to Tian to strengthen her defense. Because he dealt with a Rock Devil King and 5 Rock Devils, the surroundings were peaceful once again. But Xiao Hui was still standing there, his tail unmoving, looking left and right. His behavior concerned Ling Chen, who walked over and asked, "Xiao Hui, what's happening? Do you want to go left or right?" This question was kind of stupid, as the left mountain was almost vertical and pretty much reached into the clouds, so if he wanted to climb it he would have needed to fly. The only way forwards was really to continue walking on the right mountain. The light on Xiao Hui's horn was still shining, so judging by where they came from, the item they were looking for was still ahead. If they continued forward, they would get closer and closer. But after quite some time, Xiao Hui still didn't move. Only after Ling Chen had asked multiple times did he finally show some kind of resolution and moved forwards. After slowly moving 5 meters, he stopped firmly once again, unmoving. Ling Chen was getting doubtful. He took large strides until he stood right in front of Xiao Hui. Shudder. The moment he finished walking, the earth started shaking beneath him, as if there was an earthquake starting out of nowhere. The quiet Xiao Hui let out a long howl. All the roots of his hair stood on end and lowered his body till it almost touched the ground. It was only when they were in a situation of grave danger that Xiao Hui would have let out this warning sound. Ah! The shaking ground made Tian call out in alarm. She jogged to Ling Chen in fear, and grasped his arm with both her hands. Ling Chen took 2 steps and stopped walking, because an extremely strong aura was pressing against his body. This aura was strong and dangerous, much more so than even the Zephyr bird he had previously fought. He didn't even know how many times stronger this thing was. Following the source of this aura, Ling Chen quickly turned and looked to the right. The shaking on the ground was getting stronger. It felt as if the entire ranges were shaking. The source of this formidable aura was at the bottom of that low hill. Ling Chen stared directly at the hill, and his pupil unexpectedly flashed repeatedly. With the mountain shaking, it was stretching out the rocks bit by bit. Soon enough there were rocks tumbling down and even trees that were uprooted. The middle of the mountain stretched out higher and higher, and both Ling Chen and Tian became dumbfounded, saying nothing as an indescribable body slowly rose up. Gi. Giant. That's right. To their surprise, it was a giant. A giant that came out from the mountain range. No, a better description would be that the mountain ranges were formed because it was asleep. Its whole body was made up of rocks, every part including the forehead, limbs, body and every muscle was made from rock. There was only one exception, the big eye that was on his forehead, exactly like the Rock Devils. Before, the mountain ranges had an altitude of approximately 50 meters, but when this giant stood up, it was at least 100 meters. Although this distance didn't look long on a horizontal scale, but when measured in height, it was an extraordinary value. Ling Chen pulled his head back as far as he could and still couldn't see a complete picture of the giant. Supporting its body below was its 2 column-like legs that looked like pillars from the sky, and the length and width of the arms were by no means less than the legs themselves. For comparison, if Tian and his bodies were added together, they couldn't even compare to the giant's smallest finger. Ling Chen's mouth was left wide open. It hadn't been closed for a while. This was definitely the biggest living thing he had ever seen. It was so big that it had surpassed everything he had imagined. In facing this rock giant, without even talking about its strong aura, its mere size commanded such authority that any human would have been completely paralyzed, unwilling to even lay a single finger on it. Ling Chen now understood why Xiao Hui was reluctant to continue forwards. The first time it was because of the 5 Rock Devils and Rock Devil King. But the second time was because he could sense an even greater danger, which was the awakening of this rock giant. Obviously, the Rock Devil King was the protector of the area which Ling Chen had just destroyed. The step he just took, crossed into the domain of this rock giant and made it regain consciousness. Now, its incomparable size towered before Ling Chen. It's so big, what is this? Tian was so scared she was trembling, unable to speak. This giant even made Ling Chen scared, let alone Tian. Let's get out of here. There was a loud sound of a thunderclap that could be heard from the sky, which sounded like a loud bell by their ears. Ling Chen's whole body felt really uncomfortable and Tian's face went pale. That sound, it came from the rock giant. To their surprise, it could make human sounds. At the same time, the giant also started moving, slowly lifting its right foot and moved it towards Ling Chen and Tian's location, stepping with immense force. The sky suddenly went dark as the rock giant's head covered the rays of light as it drew closer. Tian called out in alarm and tightly held on to Ling Chen's body. Ling Chen clenched his teeth. He didn't spend any time thinking, grabbing Xiao Hui with one hand and holding onto Tian's waist with the other, loudly exclaiming, "Hold on to me." Broken shadow. Ling Chen wildly dashed away like lightning while grabbing onto Tian and Xiao Hui, traveling tens of meters in an instant. Boom! The ground shook, making Ling Chen nearly lose balance as he continued dashing. Hearing the ear-splitting sound, Ling Chen turned his head to find a cloud of dust in the air and the giant's foot on the ground which split the earth around it. He couldn't help but gasp in a breath of cold air. Could it be that this what Qian Gun labeled on the map as a formidable natural soul? This Dwarf was way too crazy. This kind of overpowered, how could players even deal with this? With one casual step, you'd be crushed to death. Xiao Hui, give me its information. Ling Chen frantically continued to dash around while yelling loudly. Behind him, the giant hadn't stopped moving and continued forwards. Its footsteps were very slow, but just one step covered tens of meters of distance. If Ling Chen didn't have broken shadow, it would have been impossible to get away from it. Judging from Xiao Hui's response, the item that he sensed was definitely an orb that he had to obtain. That rock giant was clearly the protector of that region, preventing anyone from entering the area, which also meant, if you cannot defeat or trap this giant, then you shouldn't even think about progressing forwards. Xiao Hui's eyes glittered lightly, and all the information about the rock giant immediately appeared in Ling Chen's mind. Mountain giant, category, soul, grade, Heaven's End, LV 33, HP, forehead and body, 5 million HP, right arm, 1,500,000 HP, left arm, 1,500,000 HP, right leg, 2 million HP, left leg, 2 million HP. At first it was just an ordinary mountain range in the Nameless Range. Trillions of years ago, an earth god titan died here, releasing its weak soul into the mountain range. After countless years this mountain range then transformed into the mountain rock giant. With an unparalleled body size and incomparable strength, it could throw mountains and demolish the earth. It slumbers in the center of the Nameless Ranges, protecting what the Titan left behind. It will not permit anything from entering, and will ruthlessly destroy anyone who tries. Talents: completely immune to earth attacks, immune to any status effects, immune to any stat drop effects and extremely high defense. 40% immunity to the wind element and all other attacks. Immune to knockback, knockdown and knockups. Cannot be stunned and attacked and its skills cannot be cancelled once cast. Attack skills: head and body, 5 million HP, light of extermination, a scary skill which involves the release of the old Titan spirit. It is cast every time the HP of the head and body drop by 1%, the soul of the Titan spirit will cover everything in a 100 m radius. Any targets within the radius of any grade or level will have its HP and MP set to 1. Titan Ray: the eye on its forehead fires a high-density rock beam, which can turn a single target to ashes. The rock beam's damage is 48,000 and it costs the forehead and body 1% HP to cast it. There is no cast warning. Once it is locked onto a target, it is guaranteed to hit. Titan's Shield. Whenever the head and body's HP drops 10%, the surface of the body will form a magic shield that will protect it from all physical and magical damage. This shield will disappear after 30 seconds. Titan's Anger. When the head and body's HP drops below 30%, each part of the body will summon a Rock Devil and will also increase in magic attack by 30%, Rock Devil Summon. At a verbal command, a LV-32-star Elite Rock Devil can be summoned anywhere within a 50-meter radius of its body. When the head and body HP drops below 95% it will summon 2, when it drops below 90% it will summon 4, when it drops to 85% it will spawn 6 and so on. By 5%, it will summon 38. There isn't a limit to how many Rock Devils can be alive at once. Left arm, 1,500,000 HP, Titan's Hammer, hits the ground with the strength of the Titan, causing the ground to collapse. All targets in a 50-meter radius will be crushed by the debris. The initial damage is 32,000 with a 15% chance to stun for 2 to 3 seconds. It is obvious when this spell is about to be cast, but it is very fast and the range is huge. There is almost no chance of avoiding this skill. Cast frequency, high. Earth Prison, opens its massive hand, and fires 3 to 5 earth rays. If the earth rays hit, the target is locked in place for at least 10 seconds. The rays also deal 18,000 damage. It is obvious when this spell is about to be cast, but the rays move extremely quickly and thus is extremely difficult to avoid. Cast frequency, high. Right arm, 1,500,000 HP, Petrifying Aura, release a large amount of thick earth smog, covering a 30 m radius. The smog persists for 3 seconds and anything that touches the smog will reduce their physical defense to 0 and earth resistance to 0 for 30 seconds. There is also a 30% chance that the target will be petrified for 3 to 5 seconds. No damage. Cast frequency, high. Rock Spirit's Aura, absorbs the dust in the surrounding area, restoring its own health. Every 5 seconds it will regenerate 50,000 HP, left leg, 2 million HP, destructive stomp. The strength of the Titan gathers in the leg and it stomps on the ground below ruthlessly. This causes a wide range of the ground to crack and shake in a 30-meter radius. This deals 15,000 physical damage and 15,000 earth damage. Cast frequency, high. Hatred Shield. 30% of all physical and magic damage is reflected back to the source. Right leg, 2 million HP, Sand and Stone Hurricane. Dust and sand is raised everywhere in a 100-meter radius from itself, dealing 2,000 damage per second. This severely impairs sight and movement and lasts for 10 seconds. During battle this will be cast every 20 seconds. Destructive Trample. Same as the left leg. Hidden skill, Earth God Sigh, effect unknown, cast condition unknown. Weakness, very slow moving, weak against wind attacks, resistance against wind element attacks -50%. You only need to destroy the forehead and body to kill it. Ling Chen took a long time going through all the information about the rock giant. During that time, the fear in his heart increased more than a dozen times over. LV-33 Heaven End. Compared to the Heaven End that he faced in Forest of Bones, this one is so much stronger. If the Heaven End that he faced in the Forest of Bones was a low-level Heaven End, then this rock giant was without a doubt a high-level Heaven End. Because it harbors the spirit of a true god of earth. Compared to other living things, this mountain giant had a special attribute: its legs, arms, body and head were all separate with their own HP values. But amongst these, the strongest was the head and body. The skill named Light Destroyer could make everything within the skill range have 1 HP and MP. It was truly terrifying. Although the head and body's characteristics were remarkable, all its skills require the head and body to be damaged to active them. In other words, if the head and body were not attacked, then it would not attack back. If the head and body were killed, then the mountain giant would be killed as well. But once the head is attacked, then the feared light destroyer would be released and the titan shot would also start and summon more and more rock devils. All of this would be in addition to the attacks of the arms and legs. The conditions were almost similar to hell. But, even if you wanted to attack the head and body first, it would be impossible. The leg of the mountain giant was tens of meters high, which means that the lowest part of the body would be at least dozens of meters high and the head at least hundreds of meters high. Even if a long-ranged attacker were here, they would still be unable to directly attack it. But it wasn't only the body, the arms and legs still had power that was terrifying. With such large attack range and damage, even if he was hit by just a random attack, he would be dead. In fact, the damage would have been enough to kill him several times or even dozens of times over. Boom! 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 The mountain giant continued to chase him. Every step it took caused an earthquake, and an indescribable pressure locked onto Ling Chen's body. The mountain giant was gigantic, and its aggro range was also quite far. It was even possible that its aggro range spanned across the entire Nameless Ridge. Ling Chen guessed that this mountain giant was truly furious, and was determined to chase them out of the Nameless Ridge or destroy them. Back when he had killed that wave of little stone golems, he had felt that there was something off about the atmosphere. Now that he thought about it, it was as if the mountain giant was giving him a warning. Next were the Rock Devils and the Rock Devil King, which it summoned to stop him and Tian. However, he had destroyed all of them, and they had entered the region it was protecting. As such, it erupted into fury. The mountain ridge was filled with stones and countless trees, showing just how long it had been protecting this place for. When it awoke, its fury was no small matter. "Ah, it's coming to get us, ah!" Although Ling Chen was able to increase the distance between them and the mountain giant using broken shadow, its body was simply too big. Looking back, he saw that it was already right behind them again, with its single eye staring at him. Tian screamed the entire time while Ling Chen ran, and stuck to him while tightly closing her eyes. Ling Chen frowned, and continued to run. All he could do was run away at full speed. The mountain giant moved slowly, but each step spanned tens of meters. Even with broken shadow, it was difficult for Ling Chen to shake it off. After the effects of broken shadow ended, Ling Chen had run through a mountain ridge. After using broken shadow again, he ran through a second mountain ridge. He once again turned around, and found that he still couldn't see the mountain giant's entire body. It was still right behind him. If he stopped, its next step would crush him and Tian to bits. Looking at Tian, who had her eyes closed, Ling Chen could feel cold sweat running down his forehead and back. Crap. He could only use broken shadow one more time. If the mountain giant's aggro extended to all of the Nameless Ridge, being able to use broken shadow 10 times still wouldn't be enough. Being locked onto by the mountain giant's aggro prevented him from using teleport scrolls or other teleporting items, and neither did it allow him to safely log off. As soon as he couldn't use broken shadow anymore, the mountain giant would catch up to them, and both he and Tian would have to face death. Moreover, Ling Chen did not use broken shadow anymore, but instead continued to run while looking back at the mountain giant's gigantic body. He frowned deeply, and gripped his fists. If the mountain giant is really guarding a region that contains a lunar scourge orb, then for Rua, I must obtain it. No matter what obstacles there are, I'll overcome them all. This mountain giant is too strong, though. In front of it, I'm just an ant. Can I only run away though? I've finally found where an orb is, but all I can do is run. How am I going to save Rua? Ling Chen slowly stopped running. In fact, running away was simply a fantasy now. Using Broken Shadow twice had put about 1 kilometer in between them, but the pressure from the mountain giant hadn't reduced at all. It seemed that unless he exited the nameless ridge, or even went a further 10 kilometers away from it, the mountain giant wouldn't let him go. However, it had taken him and Tian an entire day to walk from the nameless ridge's boundary to here. It would be impossible for them to escape in time. Seeing how scared Tian was, Ling Chen could only sigh inwardly. Tian, if I knew that there would be a monster that even we couldn't outrun, I wouldn't have brought you out here from Peace Town. All I can do is give you a bit of time and hope. I hope that you can get far away while I block it. Ling Chen didn't use his last Broken Shadow. Instead, he stopped in his tracks. Behind him, the mountain giant rapidly came closer, making the ground shake with each step. Ling Chen's expression became abnormally calm, without even a hint of nervousness or anxiousness. He called back Xiao Hui, put Tian on the ground and then placed his hands onto her shoulders. Feeling herself on the ground, Tian opened her eyes, and looked at Ling Chen with trembling eyes. "Big brother, why did you stop?" "Ah, it's right there." Tian immediately saw the massive mountain giant approaching, causing her to scream and jump onto Ling Chen's body as she trembled. Ling Chen looked into her eyes and said calmly and sincerely, Tian, listen carefully. Run in the direction from which we came here, and don't stop. When you feel the pressure that has been locked on to you disappear, stop running and use a teleport scroll to go back to Azure Dragon City. Got it? If he went to attack the mountain giant and drew all of its aggro onto himself, its aggro towards Tian might be cancelled out. When, or if, that happened, she could teleport back to the Azure Dragon City and log off. This was the only thing he could do to prevent both of them from dying. No matter what, he had to at least protect Tian. Then what about Big Brother? Tian hesitantly asked, her face still full of fear. I'm going to run in a different direction. Ling Chen said as he smiled, if we run together, it'll always be able to catch us. If we split up, it'll only be able to catch one of us. This is the only thing we can do. But, hearing Ling Chen's words, Tian felt that something was off. There's no time to hesitate. If you don't run, that rock giant is going to catch us, and we'll both be crushed by it. Ling Chen's voice became slightly louder. Before we came here, you promised that you would listen to me, and that you would run if I told you to run. If you don't listen to me, I won't bring you out next time. And also, you don't need to worry about me. You know how fast I can run, so it definitely won't be able to catch me. What are you still waiting for? Hurry and run. I got it. Hearing Ling Chen's voice grow louder, Tian could only nod her head in fear, and took a few steps back. Big brother, you need to run fast, don't let it catch you. After speaking, Tian started to run as fast as she could towards where they had originally come from. Ling Chen stood still, silently watching as she ran away. When he finally couldn't see her anymore, he turned around, and looked at the mountain giant which was now just 300 meters away. 300 meters was just a few steps to the mountain giant. Ling Chen's eyes narrowed. However, there wasn't even a hint of fear in them. Instead, his gaze was sharp and piercing. A light flashed, and his two celestial-grade weapons appeared in his hands. The evil god's mask also covered his face. Zephyr. The soft whisper of wind sounded out, and a light green glow appeared on the great Ravager and Zephyr blade. This mountain giant only had a single weakness, which was wind elemental damage. The Zephyr blade carried an additional skill, Zephyr, which was the best skill Ling Chen had against the mountain giant. Little master, you're really going to fight it? Ling Chen's stance caused Chi Yu to ask in shock. Ling Chen was an incredibly powerful player, and could easily kill lord bosses that were around his level, as well as defeat celestial bosses that were around his level. However, at LV20, challenging a LV-33 Heaven's End boss was like a frog trying to stop a car. I have no choice. Ling Chen said in frustration, running is useless, so I might as well hit it a few times. At least this way, Tian will survive. Yu could only sigh, true, unless some sort of miracle happens, such as this rock giant getting struck to death by lightning, or it buries itself, there's no chance of you guys getting away. Looks like this really is the only option. Little Master, after you reach LV-60, and your stats and skills have all developed, you might just have a chance at defeating it. However, right now, it's simply impossible. Just don't forget about the penalties for dying, Little Master. With the Heaven's Jealousy debuff from the Lunar Scourge, if he died, his level would immediately return to LV0. Ling Chen's face twitched, and he gritted his teeth as he said, the situation's already like this. If you're not going to say some encouraging words, can you at least not say such irritating words? How do you know I'm definitely going to die? I might just kill it, for all you know. Back then, at the Novice Village, I killed a LV-10 Celestial boss with normal equipment, new skills and LV-5 stats. Now, I have 2 professions, 2 Celestial grade equipment and 4 of the Lunar Scourge orbs. I refuse to believe that I have no chance at all at defeating this Heaven's grade boss. It's not over until it's over. After saying that last sentence, Ling Chen's expression became dark and savage, and tightly gripped the Great Ravager and Zephyr Blade in his hands. Boom! The mountain giant came within 100 meters of him, and the shaking it caused on the ground caused Ling Chen's blood to boil. He took a deep breath, yelled out, and rushed towards the mountain giant, a monster that was thousands of times bigger than him. The mountain giant didn't seem to care at all about the tiny human charging at it. Its right foot flashed with yellow light and stomped onto the ground. Boom! Dust filled the air, and rocks flew everywhere. A sandstorm surrounded the area within 100 meters of the mountain giant, turning the area into a world of chaotic sand and stones. 2000. Ling Chen's body stiffened upon seeing the massive damage figure above his head. He acted with his lightning-fast reflexes, and drank a drop of Dew of Dawn. His nearly emptied-out HP bar immediately became full again, and a split second later, his HP almost dropped to 0 again. 2000 plus 50002000 plus 50002000 plus 5000. The red and green numbers alternated in appearing above Ling Chen's head. His HP fell and rose by the same numbers every time, but he never worried about it falling to 0. Sand and Stone Hurricane was the only skill that Ling Chen could resist without dying. He had 343 HP, and the Sand and Stone Hurricane dealt 2000 Earth element damage per tick. As such, he could resist it for 1 second before dying. However, this didn't mean that the Sand and Stone Hurricane was a weak skill. Not only did it do continuous damage for 10 seconds, it also obscured vision. Even if Ling Chen used the best potions that he could buy from the Azure Dragon City, he would still be killed by the Sand and Stone Hurricane. Only with the Fairy Clan's Dew of Dawn, which recovered 5000 HP per second for 10 seconds, could he resist this skill, as it completely negated the damage from the Sand and Stone Hurricane. Moreover, if it wasn't for the water from the Fairy Fountain, which doubled his HP, the Dew of Dawn wouldn't have been able to save him. Countless small stones smashed onto his body, causing him to almost lose balance. Yellow sand filled his vision, reducing his vision to 10 meters around him and making it incredibly difficult for him to see. Although the Dew of Dawn kept him alive, he was still in a predicament. In all the chaos, a sense of pressure came towards him from above. It was the mountain giant's Destruction Stomp. The Destruction Stomp caused damage with an AoE of 30 meters. The center of the attack was where Ling Chen was. If he wanted to escape the 30-meter radius before the attack landed, he would have to use Broken Shadow. However, Ling Chen looked up at the shadow descending towards him and did not move at all. He held the Great Ravager and Zephyr Blade in front of him and maintained the Zephyr effect, seeming intent on counterattacking. Boom! The mountain giant's foot heavily descended, and the effect of the attack was as if a massive bomb had exploded, rocking the nearby mountain ridges. At this moment, the mountain giant suddenly drew its foot back, and bellowed in a deep voice. A red damage figure appeared above the mountain giant's foot. -15,000. Within the sand and stones, Ling Chen darted over like a fish in water, his weapons glimmering with green light as they relentlessly struck the mountain giant's right foot. Bang 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 bang. -6120608886111691. For ear-piercing metallic sounds rang out, and 4 damage figures rose from the mountain giant's foot. The sand and stone hurricane continued. It seemed to not only affect Ling Chen, but also the mountain giant as well. It was as if the mountain giant couldn't see Ling Chen anymore, and furiously stomped down with another destruction stomp. This time, Ling Chen ran away as fast as he could. By the time the mountain giant's right foot had been lifted up, Ling Chen had only moved by about 5 or 6 meters. His body blurred, and charged away like a gale. Boom! The ground once again shook, and Ling Chen stumbled, falling to the ground. Luckily, using his last broken shadow, he was able to avoid the second destruction stomp. He had tanked the first destruction stomp with his evil god's mask. The eyes of the mask had glowed red, and let out a roar, reflecting the damage back at the mountain giant. The evil god's mask's power came from an evil god, a true god. In this world, there was no damage that it couldn't reflect, even if the mountain giant's power also came from a true god. The destruction stomp dealt 15,000 physical damage and 15,000 earth element damage. The mountain giant was immune to earth element damage, so it only received the 15,000 physical damage. Taking advantage of that rare opportunity, Ling Chen had finally been able to attack the mountain giant a few times. The mountain giant was of the earth element, and had incredibly high defense. Luckily, Ling Chen did not fear enemies with high defense at all. Even if its defense was twice as high, it wouldn't have mattered to him. His 4 Ling Tian slashes all connected and dealt a significant amount of damage. The evil god's mask had a 10-second cooldown. As such, he could only choose to dodge the second destruction stomp. With the destruction stomp's range, it would be impossible for him to dodge it with his movement speed. Thus, he had been forced to use his final broken shadow. However, it was worth it. He had been able to reflect the mountain giant's damage to itself, as well as slash it 4 times. While Ling Chen thought that, he quickly got up and looked behind him. The instant he looked over, he saw a yellow light flash in the mountain giant's right hand. Immediately, green numbers appeared above its body, arms, and legs. Plus 50,000. The damage it had taken to its right leg was instantly recovered. At #UN%, what the fricking heck? Ling Chen nearly spat out blood, and started cursing at the mountain giant. He had used the evil god's mask to damage it, then took the opportunity to deal some attacks with his own weapons, and used his last broken shadow to escape. This sort of combo couldn't be repeated, and he had taken great risks to damage the mountain giant. And yet it had instantly recovered. The mountain giant's right hand didn't have any attack skills. It only had an AoE debuff, as well as a skill that healed it for 50,000 HP every 5 seconds. Such a large body, such high HP, such damaging attacks, and such ridiculous regenerative abilities. Do you have any shame? Are you even going to give me a chance at living? Where is the justice in this world? Which goddamn bastard designed this boss? Boom! Boom! The mountain giant walked over. In just 2 steps, its large right foot was once again above Ling Chen's head. Ling Chen didn't even think, and rushed away while he still had the broken shadow effects. A massive explosion erupted from behind him, and without even looking, Ling Chen knew that a crater had been smashed where he had just been. This time, Ling Chen didn't turn around, and rushed in the opposite direction Tian had left in. 20 seconds passed, and the effects of broken shadow ended. Ling Chen returned his normal state, and behind him, the booms grew closer and closer. Ling Chen gritted his teeth, and turned around, his eyes filled with a vicious look. He definitely wasn't going to outrun it, so why the hell was he running? He might as well do his best to take it down with him. Just like the first time, Ling Chen once again raised his weapons and charged towards the mountain giant. Again, when he came within 100 meters of the mountain giant, the sand and stone hurricane activated, and Ling Chen drank the dew of dawn he had been preparing. He braved the stones flying into him, and the great Ravager and Zephyr Blade glowed with a green light. Boom! The mountain giant used the destruction stomp yet again with its right foot. This was because Ling Chen had deliberately rushed towards its right foot. The reason for this was because its left foot had an extremely disgusting skill which reflected 30% of all damage. Even if Ling Chen used his normal attacks, the damage from the sand and stone hurricane and the reflected damage would be enough to kill him. Minus 15,000. The evil god's mask let out a roar, and the eyes of the mask flashed with a red light. The mountain giant's right leg was forced back, and the 15,000 physical damage was reflected back at it. Ling Chen once again smashed his great Ravager and Zephyr Blade onto its right foot. Although he knew that he couldn't damage it more than it could recover, he had no other options in the current situation. At another place, Tian ran as fast as she could, and didn't look back. After running for a while, she saw a fairly tall mountain ridge. She didn't think any further, and continued to run until she was at the top. When she arrived at the top, she felt the pressure on her body disappear. Because Ling Chen had drawn all of the aggro of the mountain giant, its aggro towards Tian had disappeared. She had finally regained her freedom, and could now return to the Azure Dragon City or safely log off. Tian patted her chest and let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, she heard an explosion from behind her, which sounded quite close. She turned around, and saw the mountain giant surrounded by a hurricane of sand and small stones, and it was heavily stomping down with its right foot. Tian's mouth widened, and stared in shock, then yelled out, "Big brother." She rushed down the mountain ridge and ran towards the mountain giant, forgetting all the fear she had inside of her. Moon shadow. Silver light burst out, freezing the giant foot that was just 5 meters above Ling Chen in place. The rest of the mountain giant's body was also affected, giving Ling Chen the chance to put some distance between himself and the giant. 5 seconds later, he turned around to see the damage he had just dealt completely recovered. Although he had expected this to happen, his face still twitched in anger. How the hell was he meant to fight this thing? Even bullying should have limits. Just 2 skills, Destruction Stomp and Sand and Stone Hurricane, already made Ling Chen quite helpless. What was even worse was that there were still skills that the mountain giant hadn't even used yet. Perhaps it thought that Ling Chen didn't qualify for it to use its other skills, simply stomping on him like an ant would be enough. Moon Shadow's effects ended, and the mountain giant's destruction stomp landed on the ground, causing it to once again tremble. It then raised its foot and took a step, which spanned 50 meters. It was once again above Ling Chen's head. The distance Ling Chen had gained using Moon Shadow was but a step to the mountain giant. This time, Ling Chen didn't have broken shadow, Moon Shadow was on cooldown, and the evil god's mask was nearly ready again. He was unable to escape from this destruction stomp, but he looked up and yelled, "It won't be that easy to kill me." Ling Chen raised his right hand, sending out a blinding light from the lunar scourge. Although Moon Flare couldn't damage the mountain giant, the bright light pierced into its eyes, causing it to roar in pain. As it turned its head, its body also shifted, causing the destruction stomp to land elsewhere. This allowed Ling Chen to survive once again, and though he wasn't hurt, he was sent flying by the shockwave. He landed and stabilized himself, then wiped his mouth as he coldly harumphed. This time, he had even used the moon flare. The next time, he could use the evil god's mask, again, but what then? Whoosh! The sand and stone hurricane was activated again, surrounding the mountain giant. Ling Chen immediately drank a dew of dawn. Although he knew that his struggles would all be in vain, he didn't want to go down without a fight. This was a desire all creatures had, and it was especially strong for Ling Chen. The mountain giant once again stepped towards him, and a simple destruction stomp that was filled with the aura of death descended towards him. The destruction stomp was reflected by the evil god's mask for the third time. This time, Ling Chen didn't have any chance to attack. Instead, he could only sigh as he tried to increase the distance between the mountain giant and himself. He knew that he definitely wouldn't be able to survive the next attack. Just as an ant could run all it wanted, it simply couldn't survive being attacked by a human. Forget it, this is all I can do. Luckily, all of its aggro should be on me, so Tian should be safe. Although he was facing despair, he was relieved that he had at least protected Tian. As for himself, getting back to where he was from LV0 wouldn't be too difficult. At this moment, a worried and familiar voice sounded in his ears. Big brother. Big brother. This voice caused Ling Chen to sharply turn his head, unable to believe his ears. He saw Tian rushing towards him, as well as the mountain giant. Ling Chen stared in shock for a few moments, and roared, "Why did you come back? Hurry up and run." Ling Chen yelled so loudly that his voice became slightly hoarse. However, it was as if Tian didn't hear him and couldn't see the mountain giant, and she continued to run towards him. Ling Chen gritted his teeth and charged over to Tian. Just as he started to move, a large shadow and a familiar pressure fell on him. The mountain giant was once again using its destruction stomp. Ling Chen didn't look back. He knew that no matter what he did, he wouldn't be able to survive. Through the sand and stones, he could see Tian getting closer and closer, and was about to reach the sand and storm hurricane. With Tian's low HP in defense, she would be instantly killed. "Don't come over here," Ling Chen yelled. He had been peacefully waiting for his death, but seeing Tian coming over sent his emotions out of control. He simply couldn't understand why Tian would run over. She had been so afraid before, and should be far, far away. Just as he yelled out, Tian entered the sand and stone hurricane, and Ling Chen's body stopped. Above him, the mountain giant's foot began to descend towards him. -2000. Ling Chen clearly saw the red damage figure above Tian's head. Tian's HP bar was instantly cleared, and a worried and caring voice entered his ears. "Big brother, do your best, ding, your party member, Tian has died." The system announcement notifying him of Tian's death sounded in his ears. The comfort in knowing that Tian was safe instantly vanished. Ling Chen felt like both hugging her and smacking her bottom, and asking her why she had come back. In his hazy vision, Tian slowly stood up. A white light shot out from her body into his, surrounding his body with a pure light. "Ding, your party member, Tian has used her dying skill on you. You will receive invincibility for 60 seconds, and your physical attack power, magic attack power, attack speed, movement speed, hit, critical hit rate and pierce hit rate will all be raised by 100%. This was the skill that Tian could only use when she died. Elegy of the Gods. It allowed him to take no damage for 60 seconds, and buffed almost all of his stats. It seemed that this battle wasn't over. Ling Chen looked up and roared. The foot that was stepping down on him was gone, and within the booming sounds, the mountain giant actually retreated. Above each part of its body, massive damage figures rose up. -2 500 000750 000750 0001 000 0001 000 In his shock, another system announcement sounded out. Ding! Your party member Tion's dying skill, Fury of the Gods has activated. The mountain giant, which killed Tion, will have its HP and MP reduced by 50%, and its level will be lowered by 3 levels. Ling Chen. That's right, the mountain giant lost half of its HP and MP in an instant. Moreover, it wasn't just a single region, every part of its body now only had half of its HP and MP. Its level also decreased from LV33 to LV30, and all of its stats were accordingly reduced. It was as if Ling Chen was now in heaven, and the mountain giant was now in hell. All of this had happened because of Tion's death. Little Master. This is an incredible opportunity. Its HP has gone down, and you've become invincible. With your strength, attacking non-stop for 1 minute, even this mountain giant will go down. As long as you can destroy its arms and legs in this 1 minute, Little Master will have a chance at victory. Qiyu shouted. Ling Chen's physical attack damage was now at 2,418, and his movement speed was now 360. His attack speed was at 200, and his critical chance rose to 100%. His pierce rate was already at 100%, meaning that every hit would have a critical and pierce. Adding on his Heaven Wind technique and Soul Sacrifice and other attack skills, being able to attack without worrying for 60 seconds. He had absolute confidence in destroying this mountain giant. Tion's body disappeared in a white light. Looking at the holy and pure light around him, Ling Chen silently closed his eyes. Just as Qiyu had said, this was an incredible opportunity, a miracle, even. It was a miracle given to him by Tion's death. Even if it was just for Tion, he was determined to kill this mountain giant. Because the mountain giant's head and body lost 50% of their HP suddenly, Light of Destruction, Titan Ray, Titan's Shield, and Rock Devil Summon, all activated simultaneously. A yellow light erupted from the mountain giant's chest, shooting in all directions. It passed through Ling Chen's body, but didn't deal any damage to him. The incredibly powerful Titan Ray shot out from the mountain giant's single eye, and also passed through Ling Chen's body, then buried dozens of meters into the ground. However, Ling Chen didn't feel a single thing. The white light around him seemed to have separated him from the rest of the world, and there was nothing that could damage him. 20 rock devils were simultaneously summoned, and they rushed towards Ling Chen. Ling Chen didn't even glance at them, and silently did some calculations in his head. He raised the Zephyr Blade and dragged the Great Ravager, his face completely calm, as he charged towards the mountain giant's right leg. Ling Chen raised his weapons, activated Soul Sacrifice, and heavily smashed them into the mountain giant's leg. -122,312, -122,398. 2 deafening explosions sounded out, bringing with them 2 deep purple-colored damage figures, both of which were 6 digits. The 2 strikes were incredibly powerful, and the resulting sounds were deafening. Even the powerful mountain giant found it difficult to endure those strikes. The mountain giant howled, and suddenly raised its right foot and smashed it down. This destruction stomp was much faster and more savage than any of the previous ones. Evidently, after losing so much HP and being suddenly attacked, completely enraged it. Boom! The earth cracked, and countless stones flew into the air. Ling Chen's body was also pushed back, but he was able to stand straight without losing his balance, and didn't lose any HP. As soon as his right foot touched down onto the ground, he once again shot forwards, slashing the Zephyr Blade and Great Ravager onto the mountain giant's foot. Boom! 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 -122, 400122, 400122, 354122, 402122, 330122, 348. With Tion's Elegy of the Gods, Ling Chen's attack power rose to incredible heights. His attack speed was also doubled, allowing him to attack twice with each hand per second. With 2 weapons, that meant he could attack 4 times in a second. In 1 second, Ling Chen had attacked 4 times, dealing nearly 500,000 damage. Even Ling Chen felt chills when he saw those awe-inspiring damage figures. He almost couldn't believe that it was him causing those damage figures to rise up. This was the result of combining the Heaven-Wind technique, War God technique, Zephyr, Soul Sacrifice and Elegy of the Gods. This sort of power was easily capable of destroying even the mountain giant. After losing half of its HP, the mountain giant's leg still had 1,000,000 HP remaining. With its decrease in level, the maximum HP of its leg also fell to 1,700,000 HP. After another 4 rounds of attacks in just 2 seconds, in addition to the initial attacks, the mountain giant's right leg's HP quickly fell to 0. "Rrrr!" A monstrous roar came from above. The mountain giant raised its right leg again, and a crumbling noise sounded out as many cracks and fissures began to spread along its right leg. Crack! A fist-sized rock fell from the mountain giant's leg, smashing the ground near Ling Chen's feet. That rock was like the first raindrop of a downpour. The next instant, countless rocks started to rain down. The mountain giant's fissured right leg completely broke down, showering the ground beneath it with rocks, which piled up into a small mountain. Ling Chen stared for a second before running. With his increased movement speed, he was able to travel quite far away in a short period of time. Otherwise, he would have been buried alive by the rocks. Ling Chen never expected that such a thing would happen when he reduced the leg's HP to 0. Not only did the mountain giant have separate health for each body part, but it seemed that each body part was completely separated from other body parts. They could all attack individually, and be destroyed individually. The mountain giant was unable to maintain its balance with its remaining left leg, and fell to its right. From Ling Chen's perspective, it looked as if a massive mountain had fallen over, and his eyes moved with the mountain giant. Boom! The moment the mountain giant fell to the ground, the surrounding 100 meters shook violently, and the nearest mountain had split in half. The shaking of the ground sent Ling Chen high into the air, and he was sent flying. The head-splitting booms caused his vision to temporarily darken, and he almost coughed up blood. It was as if a massive bomb had exploded right next to his feet. If it wasn't for his invincibility status, he would have died at least 10 times just from the shockwaves. The boundless sand obscured his vision, and made it difficult for him to breathe. He shook his head, and once again rushed up as he yelled, "I'm going to smash that other leg into rubble as well." Ling Chen focused, then once again charged towards the mountain giant. Tion's sacrifice had activated Elegy of the Gods, and every second mattered. His soul sacrifice lasted for 20 seconds, and half of it had passed already. He couldn't waste even a single second. Boom! 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 Ling Chen rushed to the mountain giant's left leg, and started to furiously attack it. Each attack brought about a deafening explosion, which was comparable to the sounds of the mountain giant attacking before. The mountain giant's left leg reflected 30% of all damage, which was simply ridiculous. However, with the Elegy of the Gods, Ling Chen could attack without worrying. The mountain giant's hatred shield was activated after each attack, but it was useless against Ling Chen. Boom! 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 It took him 5 seconds to run over, and 2 seconds to destroy the mountain giant's left leg. 6 Ling Tion slashes dealt over 700,000 damage, causing its left leg to also fall to 0 HP. Under such ferocious attacks, the rock spirit's aura, which recovered 5,000 HP per tick and had caused Ling Chen to furiously curse, was simply useless. The rate of recovery simply couldn't match Ling Chen's damage. Crack! Cracks covered the mountain giant's left leg and left foot, and they soon crumbled. The mountain giant's right and left legs had both been destroyed. Soul Sacrifice's effects ended, and there were still 30 seconds left on the Elegy of the Gods. In this overpowered state, Ling Chen could destroy a leg in just a few seconds. However, because of how far he had to run, as well as being flung away, much of his time had been wasted. As Soul Sacrifice's effects disappeared, Ling Chen's physical attack power fell by 400%. However, the Elegy of the Gods was still active. Ling Chen turned his gaze to the mountain giant's left hand, and rushed over. After losing both of its legs, the mountain giant howled furiously, and swung its right and left hands simultaneously. It raised its left hand, smashing down with a titan's hammer, and its right hand let out yellow smoke that covered a large area. Ling Chen ignored all of its attacks, and stood where he was, waiting for the titan's hammer. 10 or so rock devils also came over and attacked him, which he paid no attention to at all. Boom! The titan's hammer landed, blasting Ling Chen away. He then charged up, and rapidly sent Ling Tian slashes into the mountain giant's left hand. 24, 48024, 39624, 45024, 478. After the effects of Soul Sacrifice ended, Ling Chen's attack power went down drastically. However, although his attack power was only a quarter of what it had been with Soul Sacrifice, the damage he was dealing was still terrifying. With an attack speed of 200, he could still attack 4 times per second, dealing nearly 100,000 damage per second. The mountain giant's left hand's HP rapidly decreased, with the rock spirit's aura could barely slow it down. Titan's hammer. Earth prison. Petrifying aura. The furious mountain giant propped itself up, and rained down attacks with its left and right hands towards Ling Chen. Ling Chen was buffeted by rocks, blown away, sent flying, but was otherwise unaffected. He would always come sprinting back, causing large amounts of damage. The Great Ravager and Zephyr Blade, still covered by the green glow, were like the fangs of demons that were slowly devouring the mountain giant's life force. 4 corners star formation. The mountain giant's left arm only had a sliver of HP left, and Ling Chen's final attack completely obliterated it, as well as the 20 or so rock devils that had been desperately attacking him. Bang 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 bang, -49, 86649, 82849, 920. The mountain giant once again furiously roared. Now, its left and right legs, as well as left arm, had all become a pile of rocks. The rock devils caught in the 4 corner star formation were all blasted to smithereens. Ding, you have killed 20 LV-32 star elite rock devils. You received 1,200 fame and 1,200 SP. Hearing the system announcement, and seeing the broken rocks around him, Ling Chen raised his eyebrows in surprise. Those cute little rock devils had gifted him more than 1,000 SP in an instant. That was incredibly profitable for him. The Elegy of the Gods was about to wear off, and the light around him began to grow dimmer. The surroundings began to become more peaceful. This was because the mountain giant could no longer attack, as all of the body parts that could use attack skills had been destroyed. Only when its head and body were directly attacked could it use its most extreme and powerful skill. Its right hand's skills were the healing skill, Rock Spirit's aura, and the petrifying aura. That meant that as long as Ling Chen didn't attack its head or body, this mountain giant could only release some smoke. Ling Chen smirked, and took his time to walk over to the mountain giant's right hand. He used the last few seconds of the Elegy of the Gods to attack the right hand, and its recovery of 50,000 HP per 5 seconds simply couldn't stand up to his near 100,000 damage per second. Finally, the white glow around Ling Chen's body dissipated. Tian's miraculous Elegy of the Gods vanished, and the mountain giant's right arm crumbled, the mountain giant was left only with its head and body. The crippled mountain giant was only half as tall as it was before. Ling Chen returned to his original state, and huffed as he stared at the defeated mountain giant in front of it. The first time he had seen the mountain giant, all he could think of was running away. However, he soon found that running away was simply a fantasy, and that the only thing he could do was save Tian Tian. From the beginning, he had never expected or even dared to imagine that he could reduce the mountain giant to such a state. The mountain giant was simply too powerful, and no matter how strong he was, he just didn't have the right to fight with it. Everything had changed because of Tian Tian's miraculous power. That power allowed him to destroy the mountain giant's legs and arms, leaving it with just its body and head. However, the mountain giant could still use its light of extermination, which would reduce his HP and MP to 1, as well as its Titan Ray, which was guaranteed to hit, and dealt the most damage out of all of its skills. Moreover, it could still summon rock devils, all of which would be LV-32-star elite bosses. And now, the Ling Chen had lost the effects of the Elegy of the Gods. As soon as the mountain giant activated its Titan Ray, it would be enough to kill him tens of times. After being affected by the light of extermination, even being touched by a rock devil would be enough to kill him. Before the mountain giant's right arm had been destroyed, its main body had been healed by the rock spirit's aura back up to 3,100,000 HP. After having its level lowered, its body's maximum HP was reduced to 4,500,000 HP. Currently, it had 69% of its maximum HP. That meant if Ling Chen kept attacking it, before its HP fell to 0, it would be able to use the light of extermination 68 times, the Titan Ray 68 times and the summoning skill 13 times, allowing it to summon 338 rock devils. Ling Chen stared at the mountain giant's body, and the mountain giant's single eye stared back at him. Neither of them attacked. After remaining like this for 10 or so seconds, Ling Chen coldly laughed and rushed over, sending a wave of Ling Tian slashes into the mountain giant. Bang 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 bang, -6, 1206, 10812, 244. After losing Soul Sacrifice and the Elegy of the Gods, Ling Chen's attack power greatly plummeted. However, the mountain giant could no longer recover its HP, and its HP quickly dropped down to 68%. A low roar sounded from above, and a yellow light soundlessly exploded out of the mountain giant's chest, enveloping the surrounding 100 meters. The light of extermination was a skill that was cast instantly, giving its enemies no chance to retaliate or evade. At the same time, the mountain giant's single eye turned yellow, and a yellow ray pierced through the air, shooting towards Ling Chen's body. The moment the yellow light covered him, Ling Chen felt his chest tighten, and his HP and MP were instantly lowered to 1. Almost immediately afterwards, the yellow ray shot straight towards him. The Titan Ray was the mountain giant's most overpowered skill. Once it was locked on to a target, it was guaranteed to hit. No matter how much evasion one had, or how fast they wouldn't be able to avoid it. Furthermore, it was used right after the light of extermination was casted, meaning that it would result in a guaranteed kill. This was unless there was something that could cancel out the damage from the Titan Ray. Whoosh! Ling Chen heard something that sounded like the space being torn, and the Titan Ray smashed into his head. Even if he was at full health, he would have been unable to survive such an attack, let alone when he only had 1 HP. However, he had the evil god's mask. With this mask that contained the evil god's spirit and power, he would never have to worry about being insta-killed while it wasn't on cooldown. Whoosh! The same sound sounded out as the evil god's mask's eyes flashed with a red glow, and the Titan Ray was reflected back into the mountain giant's eye. The mountain giant's head swayed, but because the Titan Ray dealt earth element damage, it wasn't injured by it. Ling Chen smirked. There was nothing he needed to worry about anymore. After drinking a blue potion to recover his MP, and waiting 8 seconds, he unleashed another round of attacks onto the mountain giant. Bang 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 bang. The mountain giant's HP fell rapidly. After a few rounds of attacks, its HP fell from 68% to 67%. It once again activated the Light of Extermination and Titan Ray, and the evil god's mask refreshed just in time. Again, Ling Chen was not injured at all. He replenished his MP, waited for the evil god's mask's cooldown to expire, then once again went to attack. The Light of Extermination could never kill someone, and the Titan Ray was completely negated by the evil god's mask. Ling Chen alternated between attacking and waiting, and effortlessly cut down the Heaven's End grade boss. Its HP fell from 67% to 66%, then 65%. When using the Light of Extermination and Titan Ray, the mountain giant also spawned 14 rock devils, which rushed towards Ling Chen. This was quite a deadly combo. After being affected by the Light of Extermination, even if a player immediately used potions to recover, it would be difficult to deal with the crowd of 2-star elites that came charging over. It was a pity that in front of Ling Chen, there was not much of a difference between these 2-star elite bosses and the buck-toothed rabbits from the novice village. He drank a green potion and a purple potion, and ignored the mountain giant. He moved towards the rock devils, and started to attack them with the Zephyr effect still activated on the Great Ravager and Zephyr Blade. Every time he attacked, multiple rock devils would be insta-killed. They couldn't even get close, let alone attack. All of them were annihilated in just a few seconds. Ding, you have killed 14 LV 32-star elite rock devils. You received 840 fame and 840 SP. Ling Chen grinned in joy. He ran towards the mountain giant as he smirked, saying, "Heh, thanks for the gift. Since you're being so generous, I won't refuse." After speaking, he went up and delivered another round of attacks. Under Ling Chen's repeated assaults, the mountain giant's HP fell from 65% to 64%, then eventually down to 60%. At that moment, 16 rock devils spawned, and were instantly destroyed by a casual sweep from Ling Chen. The system announcement caused him to laugh in happiness, and he became even more motivated. Ding, you have killed 16 LV 32-star elite rock devils. You received 960 fame and 960 SP. 1 minute later. Ding, you have killed 18 LV 32-star elite rock devils. You received 1080 fame and 1080 SP. Yet another minute later. Ding, you have killed 20 LV 32-star elite rock devils. You received 1200 fame and 1200 SP. Many minutes later. Ding, you have killed 30 LV 32-star elite rock devils. You received 1800 fame and 1800 SP. Ding, you have killed 38 LV 32-star elite rock devils. You received 2280 fame and 2280 SP. Every time the mountain giant's HP fell by 10%, a massive shield would form in front of it, Titan's shield. The Titan's shield was incredibly powerful, and negated all damage for 30 seconds. Tion's Elegy of the Gods gave 60 seconds of invincibility, but the prerequisite was her dying. However, damage negation, in front of Ling Chen, was nothing. The Titan's shield hovered in front of the mountain giant, but damage figures still continued to rise from the mountain giant. 10 minutes later, the mountain giant summoned its final wave of rock devils, which had 38 of them. They were killed by Ling Chen with a single four-corner star formation, and the mountain giant's HP fell below 5%. Over the course of the battle, it had summoned 13 waves of rock devils, with more and more spawning each time, for a total of 338 rock devils. The number of rock devils wasn't the most significant point. The most significant point was that these 338 rock devils had given Ling Chen a whole 2280 SP. Adding on the wave that had been summoned and the mountain giant fell to 50% of its HP, he had received 21,480 SP in total. This was more than he had ever obtained before. He also received 21,480 fame, increasing his total fame to a whopping 35,993. Every time the mountain giant summoned rock devils, Ling Chen felt overjoyed. He would spring upon them like a starved wolf, and although they were dangerous enemies summoned by the mountain giant, they were like delicious meals to him. Where could he find such crowds of 2-star elites? It was incredibly difficult to find such a generous boss. Now that the mountain giant stopped spawning rock devils, it had lost all its worth in Ling Chen's eyes. Ling Chen steadied his emotions and said in a low voice, "It's time to send you off. I don't care what you are or where you came from. After hurting my Tian, dying 100 times wouldn't be enough to make up for it." Ling Chen's attacks landed furiously on the mountain giant, clearing out its remaining HP. Its HP fell from 5% to 4% to 3% to 2% to 1%. The last attack was a 1,000-kilogram rend, and Ling Chen smirked as he saw the mountain giant's remaining HP fall to 0. Ding, you have killed the LV-30 Heaven's End grade boss, mountain giant. You receive 30,000 fame and 30,000 SP. The system announcement telling him that he had killed the mountain giant sounded in Ling Chen's ears. Killing a Heaven's End grade boss, and especially because it was the first kill, brought him monstrous rewards. Just the SP and fame made it difficult for Ling Chen's heart to remain calm. The mountain giant's body started to crumble, and also turned into a large pile of rubble. A pile of glittering items and equipment also fell out from its head. Even the worst item or equipment dropped by a Heaven's End grade boss was one of the best items. No player in their right mind would not want it. Ling Chen took the risk of being crushed by falling rocks and rushed up, but just as he took a few steps, his body stiffened, and a massive sense of danger forced him to come to a stop. Sigh, whoosh. A low sound that sounded like sighing rang out. At that moment, the fragmented mountain giant stopped crumbling, and like time had been turned back, the rocks on the ground began to fly back up. The countless cracks on its body also began to close, and this didn't happen only for its body. Its broken arms and legs also began to be restored as the rocks flew towards their original positions. Ling Chen was flabbergasted, and quickly retreated. His eyes widened, and after staring for a few seconds, he quickly called out Xiao Hui. As Xiao Hui appeared, his eyes flashed, and information was sent into Ling Chen's mind. Earth God Sigh, dying skill. The dying mountain giant completely awakens the Titan's remnant spirit in its head, causing it to be reborn by the power of the earth. Its grade remains the same, and its level increases to LV-100. It gains incomparable power, as well as great intelligence. Can only be activated once. Ding, you have leveled up to LV-21, HP plus 20, MP plus 20, Strength plus 5, Agility plus 1, Spirit plus 1. Ding, you have leveled up to LV-22. Ding, you have leveled up to LV-25. Ding, your pet, Xiao Hui, has leveled up to LV-25, HP plus 200, MP plus 5, Defense plus 20. Ding, your pet Xiao Hui's Holy Spirit's aura has leveled up to LV-6. Ding. Your pet Ling Chen has leveled up to LV-25, MP plus 100, Magic Attack Power plus 20, Defense plus 10. After killing a Heaven's End grade boss that was 10 levels higher than him, Ling Chen received an astronomical amount of EXP, and his level jumped from LV-20 to LV-25. Xiao Hui and Ling Chen's levels also rose with his to LV-25. If it wasn't for the Heaven's Jealousy debuff, his level would have increased even more. The continuous system announcements should have made him feel incredibly excited, however, he was currently filled with despair. As the rocks flew around in the air, the mountain giant began to be restored, and in just a few seconds, its arms and legs were almost whole again. Once the mountain giant was completely restored, it stood up in front of Ling Chen, with not even a scratch on its body anymore. Moreover, the pressure that it emanated was hundreds, if not thousands, of times heavier than that of the original mountain giant. The miracle that he had created with Tion's power now vanished like smoke. The reborn mountain giant was not only restored to its peak condition, but was more powerful than before. A LV 100 Heaven's End grade boss, even if Tion could give him another Elegy of the Gods, he would have no confidence in defeating it. A pile of shining equipment and items were next to the reborn mountain giant's feet. Ling Chen, however, dared not to move, and even forgot about their existences as a whole. Ling Chen looked up, and stared at the colossal figure above him. The pressure that it radiated caused his forehead to be covered with cold sweat, and he gritted his teeth. Ling Chen wanted to throw the developer of this boss and his or her family into a pigsty for them to be violated 1,000 times. This earth god Sigh had thrown him from heaven into hell. Ling Chen felt himself being watched, and knew that this feeling came from the mountain giant. He deeply breathed in, and just as he was about to move, a deep voice sounded out. After sleeping for so many years, I've finally awoken. The sky and earth are still the same, but the demonic aura from the west has disappeared. Other than that, I can't see any changes. Should I be happy, or sad? The voice sounded incredibly ancient, and it seemed that the mountain giant had experienced much over the years. Its tone contained no malice, only nostalgia. Ling Chen frowned, and looked up. I never thought that the one who would wake me up would be a human. I thought it would be that demon from the mountain ridges in the west. Human, young human, destroying my body was quite incredible. However, I have guarded this region for countless of years. Because of a very important reason, I cannot let any outsiders come in. As such, please leave. I don't want to harm you. Before, the mountain giant had only told him to leave, and then started to mercilessly chase and attack him. This reborn mountain giant not only didn't attack him, but spoke eloquently like an elderly human. Ling Chen immediately understood something, and started to relax. He took a few steps back as he asked, Mountain Giant, is this your true body? Indeed, the mountain giant replied, my life contains the remnant power and spirit of the earth god, Titan. In order to protect the remnant of the earth god, I chose to put the core of my life and power into a deep sleep. I used the excess energy I had absorbed over the years to create a separate body, which stood guard over this region in my place, and chased away outsiders. Now that that body has been destroyed, it means that a powerful intruder has appeared, so I awoke. Who knew that after so many years, it would be a human who woke me up? Ling Chen's eyebrows shot up. The power of the original mountain giant was just some of the excess energy the true mountain giant had stored up over time. Its true power was simply terrifying. Then, what have you been guarding? Ling Chen asked. I have been guarding a race. A proud, kind, pure and intelligent race. Their existence is a blessing to the Forgotten Continent, are even able to change the entire Forgotten Continent. However, they were treated unfairly and cruelly. This race can no longer be harmed, and must not disappear from the Forgotten Continent. As such, I must protect them. This is my answer. As for anything else, I cannot tell you, so please do not ask. Human, since you know the reason, please leave. I cannot sense any evil on you. Perhaps you entered here by accident, so I will not attack you. If you must continue on, I will be forced to take action. Guarding, a race? Wait. Could the palace that Suer mentioned belong to this race? One of the lunar scourge's orbs was within that palace. Everything seemed to match up now. If Suer's information was correct, and if this mountain giant was guarding the race that owned the palace, then he definitely couldn't leave. For Shui Roa, and for the orb, he had to go in. Mountain giant, I cannot leave. Although you're guarding this region, there's a reason why I must go in. Ling Chen said while looking up. Oh. The mountain giant's voice remained calm and amicable. what is that reason? I need to find something that is more important than my life. That thing is definitely in the region you're guarding. Ling Chen did his best to speak as cordially as possible. Find something? Can you tell me what it is? Perhaps I can find it for you. I am connected with every grain of sand, every blade of grass and every tree here. If what you are looking for is in or on the ground, I can immediately find it. It's an orb. Ling Chen hesitated for a moment before continuing. If I'm correct, that orb should be in the possession of the race you're guarding. The mountain giant fell silent, and replied after a few seconds, if it's with them, then I cannot help you. I cannot allow you to go and find them, otherwise their existence may be exposed. Young human, please leave. Ling Chen frowned as he maintained his composure and said, Mountain giant, that thing is useless to anyone else, but it is incredibly important to me. I only want to obtain that thing, and I have no other motives. If I find the race you're guarding, I swear that I won't reveal any information about them. Moreover, you just said that you cannot sense any evil on me. These reasons are not sufficient. The mountain giant's tone became a bit more serious, and it firmly rejected Ling Chen's request. Since a long time ago, they refused to interact with the outside world. If you go in, they will descend into panic and confusion, and a catastrophe may occur. As their guardian, I cannot allow such a thing to happen. Oh? The mountain giant's tone was incredibly resolute, cutting off any hope Ling Chen had. However, after speaking, it had made a curious and shocked sound. Ling Chen felt the pressure on his body decrease, and felt the mountain giant's gaze shift. Ling Chen followed its gaze to the right. Apart from the cracked ground, there was only Xiao Hui. Ho ho, ho ho ho, the mountain giant suddenly laughed. This laugh sounded calm, and yet quite strange. It was as if the mountain giant had seen something that was pleasing to it. It once again spoke, I think that there is no longer any reason for me to stop you. Perhaps you going in there will not bring them catastrophe, but rather an opportunity. This place does not suit them. If they hadn't hidden themselves away for the past 10,000 years, the forgotten continent would be much more beautiful. They need an opportunity, a reason that can convince them to rejoin the world. The mountain giant's attitude towards Ling Chen going in completely changed. Not only did it not stop him, but encouraged him to go in. Ling Chen's mind spun, and thought about what it had just said, then asked, then tell me, where is that race ridden? Your companion will lead you in the correct direction, you just need to follow him. I am going to continue my slumber. Maybe when I awaken again, that race will have returned to their former glory, and will no longer need my protection. Ho ho ho, as the mountain giant laughed, a yellow light covered its body, and it disappeared. At the same time, a place in the distance also flashed with the same yellow light. Within the light, a large mountain appeared, blending in with all of the other mountain ridges. After everything had settled down, Ling Chen looked at Xiao Hui thoughtfully. He then rushed towards the spoils of war that the original mountain giant had dropped. When talking to the mountain giant, he had been itching to kick it away, so that he could finally get his hands on these exquisite items and equipment. Ling Chen had achieved this. Although, by himself, it was impossible to take down the mountain giant, he had been able to defeat it with Tian support. The Elegy of the Gods, which buffed Ling Chen, and Fury of the Gods, which took away half of the mountain giant's HP and MP, as well as reduced its level by 3, were given by Tian, but she had died. As such, Ling Chen had been awarded a solo kill, and the corresponding rewards. In total, he had received over 50,000 fame and SP from the mountain giant. This was a truly astronomical figure that could cause any player to stare in shock. For a normal player, it would be impossible for them to earn this much fame and SP in years of playing. Moreover, there was also a pile of exquisite items and equipment. Ling Chen ran over to his spoils of war as fast as he could. There were about 3,000 gold coins glittering on the ground, which Ling Chen got Xiao Hui to pick up. Swallowing his saliva, he walked over to the equipment and items. The first piece of equipment was a spear shining with golden light. This golden light carried an air of nobility and dignity, making the golden light from the gold coin seem dull in comparison. The aura it emanated was like that of a king, which made it natural that Ling Chen would notice it first. Ling Chen picked it up. The spear was 2 meters long, and was far taller than Ling Chen when placed upright. It was icy cold in his hands, and incredibly heavy. But the moment after he touched it, the golden light disappeared, and the heaviness of the spear decreased by half, becoming quite light, as if it was submitting to Ling Chen. After all, the mountain giant had been defeated by Ling Chen, which resulted in its appearance. When weapons reached a certain grade, they would start to develop a bit of sentience. As such, if anyone apart from Ling Chen tried to use it, even if they were a higher level than Ling Chen, it would not necessarily submit to them. The light and heaviness disappeared, but the coldness and aura of nobility remained. The aura this spear emanated was far more powerful and sharp than that of the Zephyr Blade and Great Ravager. Ling Chen gripped it with both hands, and held it across him, his eyes trembling. Could this spear be? Ding, you have obtained the Heaven's End grade weapon, Twilight. This equipment ranks second in the China region equipment rankings. Do you wish to hide your personal information? Heaven's End grade. Although Ling Chen somewhat expected it, he simply couldn't calm down after hearing the system announcement. That's right, this was a Heaven's End grade weapon. Ling Chen hurriedly replied to the system announcement. On the equipment rankings, the Twilight Spear was ranked above all other equipment, second only to the Evil God's Mask. He then hastily went to look at its stats. Twilight, type, spear, grade, Heaven's End, equipment requirements, melee professions above LV30, fame above 2000 and approved of by Twilight. It was originally a normal spear that was abandoned in the Nameless Ridge. After absorbing Titan Spirit's power, as well as Earth element energy, it gained some sentience. It has incredible piercing abilities, and can even tear space. Stats: physical attack power plus 360, strength plus 30, constitution plus 20, agility plus 25, pierce rate plus 15%, adds a 7% chance of attacks adding 3 seconds of petrify debuff. Special effects: parry level, 14, when parrying, or if your attack is parried, your next attack will be guaranteed to pierce. Bonus skills: Wild Sand, releases the Earth element energy in the Twilight Spear, turning all damage dealt into Earth element damage. Can be activated or cancelled at will. Moment of Elegance, releases a cold wave of energy that instantly carries the user to pierce towards any direction, heavily injuring all those it hits. The piercing energy activates and attacks instantly, leaving only a ray of light. Unless destroyed, it cannot pierce through physical obstacles. The distance can be controlled to be within 5 to 15 meters, and deals 300% damage, as well as has a 100% chance of adding 3 seconds of blindness. Costs 120 MP, cooldown time, 10 seconds. What an awesome Heaven's End grade weapon. Ling Chen held the Twilight Spear in his hands as his heart beat rapidly. The Evil God's Mask was given to him by Xiao Feng Chen, and the Twilight Spear was the first Heaven's End grade equipment that he had earned. It was more powerful than even the Zephyr Blade and Great Ravager combined. Just the 75 stat points that it gave could make any player's eyeballs pop out of their sockets. Moreover, it gave 2 bonus skills, the strongest of which was definitely the Moment of Elegance skill. In Ling Chen's eyes, it was simply overpowered. Although it was not as powerful as the 1000-kilogram Ren that dealt 500% damage, it dealt damage in a straight line and instantly teleported both the spear and himself in any direction. And it even had a 100% chance of causing blindness, which could cause an enemy to immediately fall into confusion. What was even more broken was that its cooldown time was just 10 seconds. Ling Chen marveled at the spear in his hands, as expected from a Heaven's End grade weapon. Ling Chen was currently LV 25. His item manipulation technique was only LV4, so he still could not equip this Twilight Spear. As such, Ling Chen did not even hesitate as he spent 600 SP on leveling up the item manipulation technique. Ding, your skill, item manipulation technique, has risen to LV5. Item manipulation technique, current level, LV5, highest level, LV10. SP to upgrade to LV6, 5000. Ancient battle technique, after practice equipment that surpasses your current level can be equipped. Effect, ignores any piece of equipment's level requirement by 5 levels. And thus, Ling Chen could equip LV30 equipment at LV25. Ling Chen smirked, and equipped the Twilight Spear, then looked at his stats. The appearance of the Twilight Spear meant the replacement of the Zephyr Blade. However, Ling Chen didn't want to give the Zephyr Blade to anyone else. The Zephyr effect that the Zephyr Blade gave was much too useful. It had been instrumental in Ling Chen's killing of the mountain giant. As Ling Chen swung the Twilight Spear around, it let out a golden glow. Ling Chen's eyes grew serious, and he pointed the Twilight Spear in front of him. Without any casting time, swish sounded out, and Ling Chen appeared 10 meters high in the air. In his original position was an afterimage that was still disappearing. Ling Chen landed on the ground and laughed joyously. This sort of skill that allowed him to teleport in any direction and distance, as well as dealt a large amount of damage and caused blindness, was incredibly versatile. It could be used to insta-kill magic professions, or to save his life. It could be used to evade, engage, escape, ambush, incredibly effectively. The pleasant surprises the mountain giant brought to Ling Chen weren't just limited to the Twilight Spear, however. After playing around with it for a while, he put it away, and grinned as he looked at the other equipment. Titan's Embrace, type, full body armor, grade, celestial, equipment requirements, melee professions above LV30, fame above 2000. A mysterious armor that contains a very small portion of Titan's spirit. Gives the wearer powerful defensive abilities. Stats, defense plus 210, strength plus 30, constitution plus 42, earth element resistance plus 15%, immunity to petrification and defense reduction. Bonus skill, Sands of Fury, 2% chance of activating when being attacked. Causes 2000 to 3000 earth element damage to the attacker. That's right. A celestial grade piece of equipment. And it was full body armor, which replaced both upper and lower armor. It was a type of armor he had never even seen before. Ling Chen immediately unequipped the dark chest plate and purple crystal armor, and equipped the Titan's Embrace. Immediately, his stats once again rose. His HP was now 2,953, just short of 3,000. The only piece of equipment that had emitted the Heaven's End grade light was the Twilight Spear. However, it was not just the Titan's Embrace that radiated the celestial grade light. Twilight Bracelet, type, lunar chain, grade, celestial, equipment requirements, none. A high-quality lunar chain that contains dense earth element energy. It releases a glow similar to the light at twilight. Can equip energy crystals of any level, and energy orbs below Heaven's End grade. Maximum number of crystals or orbs that can be socketed, 5. The Twilight Bracelet was covered by a warm glow, and was quite small. It was quite suitable for females to wear. Ling Chen didn't forget how the gold lunar chain had caused such a sensation and uproar at the auction, and the astronomical amount of money it had sold for. If this celestial grade lunar chain was shown to the public, it would create even more of a scene. However, no matter how powerful a lunar chain was, it wouldn't be able to compare to the lunar scourge. What he needed least right now was a lunar chain. The rest of the equipment were gold and silver grade, none of which were suitable for Ling Chen. But Ling Chen didn't feel annoyed or disappointed. To be able to receive a Heaven's End grade weapon and 2 celestial grade equipment already made him feel ecstatic. In fact, even if he only received the Twilight Spear, he would have been satisfied. There were 7 gold-grade equipment and 12 silver-grade equipment in total. The lowest grade of equipment that the mountain giant dropped was silver. Ling Chen picked each of the equipment up, and soon he came to an orb radiating a golden light. Wild Sand Orb, Type, Energy Orb, Grade, Heaven's End, Attribute, Earth. Effects, Earth Element Resistance plus 55%. Ling Chen couldn't hide the surprise on his face. This was a Heaven's End grade energy orb. The mountain giant had not only given him a Heaven's End grade weapon, but a Heaven's End grade energy orb as well. This was a defensive energy orb, which gave him 55% resistance against earth element damage. Ling Chen didn't even think as he socketed it onto the lunar scourge, instantly boosting his earth element resistance to 70%. This was a terrifying number. If any player or monster attacked him with earth element damage, more than 2/3 of it would be negated. This wild sand orb was a nightmare for earth element users. An earth magician would probably cry when they saw the damage they dealt to Ling Chen. After socketing the wild sand orb, there was only an earthen yellow scroll left on the ground, which Ling Chen quickly picked up. Skill Scroll, Titan's Shield. Use the skill, Titan's Shield, which creates a thick shield in front of you, negating all damage for 30 seconds. Can only be used once, and will disappear after use. It wasn't a hidden profession scroll or a skill learning scroll, but a single-use scroll that allowed him to use one of the mountain giant's skills. Ling Chen was overjoyed to find that it was the Titan's Shield, the skill that gave 30 seconds of invincibility. What did 30 seconds of invincibility mean? The reason Ling Chen was able to defeat the mountain giant was because the Elegy of the gods gave him 60 seconds of invincibility. In key moments, the Titan's Shield could save his life, and create miracles like what had just happened. Ling Chen carefully put it away. Suddenly a golden glow caught his eye. Right under where the scroll was, there was a gold token. It had been completely covered by the scroll before, which was why he didn't notice it until now. Ling Chen picked up the gold token. It seemed to be made out of solid gold, and was just small enough to be comfortably held in his hand. On the front was engraved the word, Command. Command? This shape, and the word, Command, could it be a guild creation token? No. Ling Chen frowned. Ling Chen had obtained more than one guild creation token, and although the shape was similar, guild creation tokens were made of wood and were black. Wait, could this be? Ling Chen suddenly thought of something, and immediately looked at its information. When Ling Chen saw the name of this gold token, his eyes widened, and he stared at the token for a while. He simply couldn't believe what it was. Ling Chen had only heard of this token before, but had never seen or obtained one. Within the virtual world, as the average level of players increased, guild creation tokens became a commodity. In some games, there would be hundreds of thousands of guilds, both large and small. However, the gold token that Ling Chen was holding was something that would only spawn once in a region. That's right, even if there were billions of players, there would only be one of this token. It was countless times more valuable than a guild creation token. Only incredibly powerful bosses, celestial grade and above, had a low chance of dropping this token. As soon as this token appeared, the entire region would be sent into an uproar. This uproar would be incomparable to the one the first guild creation token had created. It was far more valuable than all the other equipment and items the mountain giant had dropped, even the Twilight Spear. And now, this token was in Ling Chen's hands. Is this the heaven's will? Ling Chen muttered to himself as he gripped the gold token. This sort of item, which usually only appeared in the late stages of the game, had actually been obtained by him so early on. He was holding it in his hand, but he simply couldn't believe it. But then again, the mountain giant was indeed Heaven's End grade, and was qualified to drop it. It's a bit too early though, or is my luck really that great? However, Ling Chen looked down at the token in his hand. Since I've obtained it, perhaps it really is Heaven's will. I won't let it fall into anyone else's hands. Although I've decided to put all of my efforts into reviving Shura, I haven't given up on Heart's dream. Long Tian Yun, just you wait. The pain you caused to me 12 years ago, the suffering I went through in heaven and hell for 6 years, the pain of separating from Jia Wu and Shura. I haven't forgotten about any of that for even a second. After Ruo wakes up again, I will return all of that to you with interest. I will make you lose your riches, power and dignity, everything. But don't you worry, I won't take away your life. I'll continue to let you live in agony every day. Ling Chen subconsciously clenched his fists. This gold token made him think of many possibilities, and also caused the boundless hatred in him to awaken. It took him some time to calm himself down, and he put the gold token away. Ling Chen put away his spoils of war from the mountain giant, and a system announcement sounded in his ears. Ding, you are the first player in Mystic Moon to kill a Heaven's End grade boss. You receive the rewards, fame plus 10,000, gold coins plus 10,000, SP plus 10,000, unique item, Heaven Slayer insignia. Heaven Slayer insignia, type, insignia, grade, none, equipment requirements, cannot be transferred. A mysterious insignia with an unknown history. Awarded to the first player who kills a Heaven's End grade boss by themselves. Does not give any bonus stats. Legends say that it can open an ancient ruins that has been sealed. A small, golden insignia floated down from the sky and landed into Ling Chen's hand. It was about as big as a ping-pong ball, and emitted a golden light. Ling Chen felt that it looked familiar, and suddenly remembered something. He took out a similarly sized silver insignia, the Celestial Slayer insignia, TLN, the original translator translated it as, Consonance insignia. The Celestial Slayer insignia was awarded to him when he killed the greedy giant Toad, for being the first player to kill a Celestial grade boss. This Heaven Slayer insignia had been awarded to him for being the first to kill a Heaven's End grade boss. They were about the same size and had almost the same description. Although neither of them gave any bonus stats, they could be used to open a sealed ancient ruins. Could it be that they open the same ancient ruins? Maybe it requires 2 insignias to open. But where are these ancient ruins? The insignias mentioned in ancient ruins, but never said where they were, which made Ling Chen feel slightly annoyed. He put the 2 insignias together, and hoped that his luck would be good enough to find those ancient ruins someday. Ling Chen's harvest was especially abundant, and there was nothing blocking him anymore. The mountain giant had said some ambiguous things, then left. It seemed that it was encouraging him to go and find that mysterious race. Although Ling Chen was incredibly curious as to what the race was, he didn't go in, and instead logged off. After returning to the real world, Ling Chen opened his eyes, and smelled food being cooked. These days, Tian had been adamant to cook breakfast, lunch and dinner for them. With her hard work, and Ling Chen's masterful guidance, Tian's food now not only looked good, but also tasted good, especially the ones she liked to eat. Dinner was already ready, and Ling Chen saw Tian sitting at the table, cupping her face with her hands as she waited for him. Ling Chen couldn't help but smile, and rushed over, picking Tian up. He kissed her on the cheek as he yelled, Tian. I won. I beat that mountain giant. And I leveled up 5 times in a row. Really? Tian's mouth widened. Defeating that terrifying monster was simply inconceivable. She immediately started to happily laugh as she touched the place Ling Chen had kissed. Wow. Big brother's so strong. I can't believe you beat such a big and powerful monster. Big brother's awesome. Tian didn't know the full story, and so Ling Chen shook his head as he smiled. No, it's not me who's strong, but Tian. If it wasn't for Tian, I definitely wouldn't have been able to defeat it. It was all because of you. Ahahaha, no way, it was obviously Big Brother who defeated it, Tian said as she giggled. Ling Chen put Tian down and tapped her nose as he became more serious. However, although you helped me quite a bit, you broke our promise. I told you to run, so why did you come back? And you even died. How am I? I got it. I know what I did was wrong, I won't do it again. Big Brother, hurry and eat, otherwise your food will get cold. Tian knew that Ling Chen would say all of this, so she quickly cut him off as she placed a pair of chopsticks into his hand. Ling Chen stopped speaking, and holding the chopsticks, he looked at Tian who was filling his bowl for him. Seeing this scene, a warm feeling spread throughout his heart. Back then, Tian had only been a burden to him. He had wanted to send Tian off so he and Rua could enjoy their two-person world. However, she had become part of his world, becoming more and more important to him. After Rua left, he didn't feel too lonely because of Tian, even the pain in his heart began to fade day by day. And now, he almost couldn't imagine what it would be like if he had never met Tian, or if Tian had left as well. To his left was the incredibly steep and tall mountain, and to his right was the mountain giant had transformed into. However, this time, the mountain giant would no longer stop him, it wasn't even releasing any of its pressure, and seemed to be in a very deep sleep. Ling Chen looked around him. There were only these two mountains in the Nameless Ridge's central district. Everywhere else was flat ground, without even much grass. There were no traces of this mysterious race. Ling Chen called out Xiao Hui, saying, Xiao Hui, have a look around for a hidden entrance. As soon as Xiao Hui appeared, his horn glowed with a gray light. There was not any danger here, so Xiao Hui casually ran forwards, with Ling Chen following behind him. Ling Chen had complete faith in Xiao Hui. Xiao Hui ran in front of the extremely tall mountain, and stopped in front of it, wagging his tail. He looked up towards the ridiculously sloped mountain face, and his horn glowed a bit brighter. Ling Chen stopped beside him asking, Is there a hidden entrance on this mountain? Whoa, Xiao Hui replied. He walked around in front of the mountain, continuously sniffing. Ling Chen also stepped closer and knocked on the mountain, seeing if there was anything hidden. After sniffing around for a long time, Xiao Hui stopped at a place facing south. After looking up and staring at the mountain for a few moments, he took a few steps back, then ran forwards and jumped, using his horn to ram into a certain rock. Xiao Hui's horn crashed into the rock with a bang, and the horn glowed. Xiao Hui was sent flying back, and landed on his back. He got back up with great difficulty, and used his right paw to rub his horn as he cried out with a woo-woo sound. Are you alright, Xiao Hui? Is there something hidden here? Ling Chen reached out to the place that Xiao Hui had hit. Suddenly, clacking sounds, like those of gears turning, sounded out. The mountain face in front of them suddenly started to move. A portion of the mountain face that was 5 meters in height and length started to move upwards, then to the side. A tunnel started to appear in front of Ling Chen. After half a minute, the mountain face stopped moving, and a 5-meter-wide tunnel appeared. This was a hidden mechanism? Ling Chen was blown away. The noise from just then was probably the sound of metal gears grinding together, which meant that a mechanism controlled the opening of this tunnel. A 5-meter-high, 5-meter-wide and half-a-meter-thick stone slab would be incredibly heavy, and yet this mechanism could move it. Moreover, the entrance was perfectly camouflaged. Before it moved, it was impossible to tell that this stone slab was actually a large door. This sort of thing was definitely not something created by nature. To be able to create such a thing in this world was astonishing. Ling Chen did not immediately enter the tunnel. Perhaps there was danger inside, so he had to make sufficient preparations. After killing hundreds of rock devils and the mountain giant, as well as receiving the reward from the first kill of a Heaven's End grade boss, Ling Chen had 58,350 SP. This was enough to level up many of his skills. Before entering this mysterious tunnel, he decided to level up his skills, so as to increase his survivability. Although 50,000 was quite a lot of SP, Ling Chen's skills were all extremely powerful, and all required much SP to level up. Lucky Hand required 300,000 SP to level up, and Soul Demise required 100,000 SP. The 50,000 SP he had was simply not enough to level them up. After thinking for a while, Ling Chen leveled up Ling Tian Slash and Ling Tian Burst, the two skills he used the most, to their max level. Ling Tian Slash, LV7, 1, 600 LV8, 2, 200 LV9, 3, 000 LV10. Ling Tian Burst, LV6, 1, 000 LV7, 1, 600 LV8, 2, 200 LV9, 3000 LV10. Ling Tian Slash, current level, LV10, max level. Automatically upgrades after upgrading profession. Using the weapon in the hand to attack a single enemy, suddenly releasing the strength of the battle's soul the instant you hit the enemy, dealing devastating damage towards the opponent. Effect: single target attack, damage is equal to 300% of regular attacks, critical hit chance plus 18%, 7% chance of stunning for 3 to 5 seconds, very big chance of pushing back the target, MP consumption, 25, cooldown time, 0, Ling Tian Burst, current level, LV10, max level. Automatically upgrades after upgrading profession. Pouring the battle soul power into the weapon and instantly releasing it when slashing forward creates a power explosion in a small area, attacking all targets in a 7-meter area in front, damage is equal to 200% of regular attacks, MP consumption, 35, cooldown time, 0, after spending 14,600 SP, and hearing continuous system announcements. Both the Ling Tian Slash and Ling Tian Burst became max level. Their damage, range, and effects all reached their maximum. Soon after, the Four Corners Star Formation also rose to max level. Four Corners Star Formation, LV6, 2, 200 LV7, 3, 000 LV8, 4000 LV9, 5, 200 LV10. Four Corners Star Formation, current level, LV10, max level. Automatically upgrades after upgrading profession. Using the power of the battle soul to sweep the surroundings, it instantly forms a formation of destruction in a 15-meter radius around yourself. The raging battle soul power will deal devastating damage towards all targets within the formation. Damage is equal to 800% of regular damage, critical hit rate plus 20%, 100% chance to trigger knockback, MP consumption, 160, cooldown time, 60 seconds. The max-leveled Four Corners Star Formation had a range of 15 meters, and dealt an astonishing 800% damage. As expected from one of the most powerful techniques of the War God. Leveling the Four Corners Star Formation to max level took 14,400 SP, leaving Ling Chen with 29,350 SP. Ling Chen spent the rest of it on some of his most powerful passive abilities. Heaven Wind Technique, LV5, 5000 LV6, War God Technique, LV4, 5000 LV5, 600 LV6, Fengchen Technique, LV3, 600 LV4, 800 LV5, 5000 LV6, Heaven Wind Technique, current level, LV6, highest level, LV10. SP to upgrade to LV7, 600 SP, Ancient Battle Technique. After practice it can greatly increase the ability to control any weapon. Effect: when using any weapon, damage dealt is increased by 30%. Effect does not stack with other weapon proficiency skills. War God Technique, current level, LV6, highest level, LV10, SP required to upgrade to LV7, 500 SP, powerful battle technique originating from War God's soul force, after practice can greatly increase personal attack strength permanently. Effect: Strength increases by 6*x points, physical attack strength increased by 14*x, x equals current level. Ling Chen technique, current level, LV6, highest level, LV10, SP required to upgrade to LV7, 6600. A technique unique to the Ling Chen sect. After cultivating, the user's body will become incredibly light and nimble, as if they are riding on a gentle breeze. It is said that when cultivated to the peak, the user can use the winds to walk in the sky, and even falling from a cliff will not hurt them at all. Effects: movement speed plus 60, evasion plus 60%, can decrease falling speed by up to 60%, can be controlled. Apart from the item manipulation technique, all of Ling Chen's techniques reached LV6. Now, he only had 350 SP remaining. Currently, all of Ling Chen's attack skills were max level, and all of his passive abilities were nearing max level. All of this was because of the gifts from the Heaven's End grade boss. After making sure he was completely prepared, Ling Chen stepped into the tunnel. Tap. 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 Ling Chen's footsteps in the tunnel sounded incredibly clear. It was extremely quiet, and apart from himself, there were no other creatures. Ling Chen looked back towards the entrance. There were thick metal strips crisscrossing, and hundreds of metal gears. They were arranged in an incredibly complex manner, and Ling Chen felt his head spinning as he looked at them. Waves of shock crashed within his heart. These metal strips and gears opened that incredibly heavy stone door. That stone door was thousands of kilograms heavy. Who made such a mechanism? After quietly walking forwards for a while, Ling Chen saw two lights hanging from the stone walls. The lights were spherical, and were about as large as fists. They emitted a warm light that felt comfortable to look at. Ling Chen stared at the lights for a while. The feeling they gave him was like the lights of the real world. At least, he had never seen these types of lights in the Azure Dragon City, or at any other towns or cities. Under the illumination from the lights, Ling Chen found that the walls of the tunnel were incredibly smooth, as if every inch of them had been carefully polished. Evidently, this tunnel was created by the race that lived here. Normally, these sorts of constructions would be quite crude, with the walls uneven and left unadorned. However, this tunnel was extremely wide, and made with extremely high craftsmanship. Much time and effort had been spent in constructing it. Who had built this tunnel? What sort of beings were the members of this mysterious race? The tunnel was extremely long, and after walking for 100 meters or so, the tunnel widened up and merged with a stone room. The stone room was round, and was 30 meters in diameter. Within the stone room were many rotating mechanisms. That's right, they were all mechanisms. They were all spinning and rotating while letting out calm whirring and buzzing sounds. So it's them. The only ones who can make mechanisms that other people can't even comprehend is that race. While Ling Chen stared in shock, Chiyu spoke, her voice full of sympathy. Back then, this race was forced into hiding, and has never appeared ever since. They've been more or less forgotten by the rest of the races, and some even believed that they went extinct. Who would have thought that Little Master would find them, over these past 10,000 years, if this race didn't go into hiding? With their talent, wisdom and skills, the technology in Mystic Moon would have been thousands of years more advanced. This figure looked like a human, but he was incredibly short, only 1 meter tall. He was quite skinny, had messy hair, but had a large head. His skin was black, and was wearing incredibly tattered clothing. His body emanated a burnt smell. Ling Chen nearly bumped into this small person. They stared at each other in surprise, and after a few seconds, the small person suddenly jumped back and yelled out, Why you? Who are you? How did you get in? Save me. There are outsiders here. Although this person was quite short, but his voice was incredibly loud. This shout brought about effects like a wasp's nest being poked, and the peaceful stone room erupted into chaos. 10 or so small people rushed in, standing at a distance from Ling Chen. They stared at him with shock and fright, as if he was some sort of monster. This race had hidden themselves away for over 10,000 years, so they had probably never seen an outsider before. To them, Ling Chen was like an alien. Seeing these 10 or so people, the tallest of whom was 1.2 meters tall, and had black skin and tough-looking bodies, Ling Chen's suspicions were confirmed. I knew it. It's the dwarves. What a great surprise. Chi Yu's words reinforced what Ling Chen was already thinking. However, she immediately muttered, "Weird, the dwarves are short, but they shouldn't be so skinny and weak-looking. Rather, they should be muscular and well-built. Why do they look like this?" From the legends Ling Chen heard, the dwarves were an intelligent, proud, kind and hard-working race. They were talented blacksmiths and engineers, and were unparalleled in forging. However, it was because of their intelligence and talents that they had suffered catastrophes. In the ancient eras, when the mystic moon was in an age of war, equipment was often an important factor in determining victory. Large numbers of dwarves were kidnapped and imprisoned, and forced to create weapons and equipment, and the humans had taken part in this as well. Because the dwarves lacked any talent in fighting, they were powerless in front of humans. Human greed and wickedness was openly displayed to the dwarves. In the end, the dwarf clan decided to hide themselves away in a place that no one else could find. The wickedness of the humans was a key factor in making this decision. Because they seemingly disappeared from the world, all these years, no mysterious god-grade equipment, or even Heaven's End-grade equipment appeared in the world. Hello, dwarf friends. Naturally, Ling Chen was the one to greet them first. He greeted them as if he was casually saying hello to an acquaintance. Ling Chen had been shocked when discovering the dwarves, but the dwarves were absolutely terrified upon seeing Ling Chen. After all these years, no outsiders had set foot in this place before. "He's a human," one of the dwarves yelled as he pointed at Ling Chen. The rest of the dwarves all gaped. The person in front of them looked exactly like the records of humans they had. Their records said that humans were incredibly greedy and evil creatures, and had wanted to enslave the entire dwarf clan. And now, a human had entered their safe haven, meaning that their peaceful days were over. They were all doomed. The dwarf clan was going to be sent into chaos once again. Humans have found us," another dwarf yelled. "Quick! Go and tell the chief." The dwarves all picked up iron clubs, with fear and apprehension written all over their faces. Evidently, they weren't very confident in fighting, and didn't have much experience either. Their actions were simply based on their natural instinct. Ling Chen stood where he was, and did not get any closer. He had expected the dwarves to react in this way after living in peace for over 10,000 years. Seeing an outsider was sure to send the entire clan into uproar. Just as he was wondering what he should do to calm them down, a loud and strong voice sounded out, "Everyone, don't panic. He's a visitor sent here by our guardian god." As soon as the voice sounded out, the rest of the dwarves fell silent. The crowd parted, and an old dwarf with white hair and beard, wearing a black robe and holding a walking stick walked in. While walking forwards, he observed Ling Chen calmly, not revealing any of the shock the other dwarves had. The dwarves all respectfully stood to the side as he passed by. The elderly dwarf stopped about 5 meters away from Ling Chen, saying, "Greetings, visitor from the outside world. I am the dwarf clan's current chief, Dillo. Although you came in uninvited, we still welcome you here." Although the dwarf chief's hair was white, his eyes were clear and focused, and full of intelligence. Ling Chen nodded and politely replied, "Hello, dwarf chief Dillo. My name is Ling Tian. I apologize for disturbing your peace. You are the first visitor we've had in 10,000 years. Since our guardian god allowed you to come here, I'm sure you don't have any ill intentions." Dillo calmly said. The guardian god he was referring to was the mountain giant. So it seemed that the dwarf clan knew about the mountain giant, and the mountain giant had somehow told the dwarf chief about him. Thinking to hear, Ling Chen said, "Dwarf friends, please don't worry. I don't have any ill intentions, and unless you all agree, I won't tell anyone about you." Hearing that Ling Chen was a visitor sent by their guardian god, the worried dwarves were able to relax a bit. Their trust in and reliance on the mountain giant was evident. "Well then, human friend, why have you come here?" Dillo asked. "I'm here to look for something." Ling Chen truthfully replied. "Look for something?" Dwarf Chief Dillo frowned. "What are you looking for?" Ling Chen thought for a moment before replying, "An orb. I don't know its name, but it's within a palace here. If you can let me go there, I should be able to find it immediately. I am sorry, visitor from the outside world, but I cannot fulfill your request." Hearing Ling Chen's words, Dwarf Chief Dillo immediately shook his head. "The palace is our dwarf clan's holiest place. Our ancestors said that unless they are a close friend of our race, we cannot let any outsiders in. Moreover, all of the items in the palace are incredibly precious, even members of our race cannot casually take them away." Ling Chen, just as Ling Chen was about to speak, Qiyu suddenly spoke, "Hehe, little master, don't worry. Let me tell you a secret about the dwarf clan." "What secret?" "Does little master know the two things the dwarves love? One is forging. Every single dwarf is obsessed with creating high-level and high-grade items. They have exceptional talent, but often lack high-quality materials. If they had high-quality materials, they would become delirious with joy, and forget about all their rules and morals. As long as they can obtain high-quality materials and use them in their forging, the pleasure they receive is similar to what you humans receive from climaxing." Ling Chen, after hearing Qi Yu's words, Ling Chen knew what he should do. High-quality materials, he had found quite a few materials because of Xiao Hui, but he wasn't sure if they were high quality. Ahem, Ling Chen cleared his throat as he sincerely said, "Chief Dillo, don't worry, I won't force you to do anything. I came in full earnestness to become your dwarf clan's close friend." As he spoke, Ling Chen reached into his bag and took out 2 stones. The 2 stones were extremely beautiful, and let out rainbow-colored light. The instant Ling Chen took them out, all of the dwarves stared at them, unable to shift their eyes away. "This light, this feeling, this is the rainbow agate. The rainbow agate that only appears in one of 300,000 normal agate. This agate can be used to make the world's most beautiful decorations and jewelry." One of the dwarves madly eyed the rainbow agate as he yelled with a voice full of passion. This voice seemed to awaken something within all of the dwarves, and they all rushed in front of Ling Chen, staring at the stones in his hands. Some dwarves were even drooling, and even Dwarf Chief Dillo's eyes lit up. Just a rainbow agate made them react like this? Ling Chen grinned. Out of all of the things Xiao Hui had found, the rainbow agate was probably of the least value. Ling Chen put away the rainbow agate, and took out the spatial stone that he had used to escape out of the lunar sky hell with. Whoosh! The moment Ling Chen took out the spatial stone, the dwarves reacted as if they had been struck by lightning. These dwarves who were geniuses at forging and recognized almost every material in the world instantly recognized what it was. "Oh my god! A spatial stone! That's a spatial stone! That mysterious spatial power, that delicious smell, that's it! That's the spatial stone I've been dreaming of! I actually got to see a real spatial stone." Seeing the spatial stone, all of the dwarves became like little children, fighting to squeeze closer to it. Ling Chen put away the spatial stone after a few seconds, then took out the mysterious red sun gold. The faint golden light shone into every dwarf's eyes. It seemed as if time stopped. Every dwarf's eyes widened to comical proportions, and their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. Their gazes were filled with disbelief and shock, as well as madness. Mysterious. Mysterious red sun gold. The trembling voice came from Dwarf Chief Dillo. His entire body was shaking, and the trembling in his voice was obvious. Hearing his voice, the dwarves all went out of control. One dwarf charged over to Ling Chen with an incredible speed, and knelt in front of him. He hugged Ling Chen's legs as he cried out, "Mysterious Red Sun Gold! Mysterious Red Sun Gold! If you give it to me to forge, I'll do anything for you. I'll serve you as my master. No! Human friend, give it to me, give it to me. My forging abilities are the best here. If you're willing to give that mysterious red sun gold to me, I'll use it to create any equipment for you for free. I'll even provide all of the other materials required, trust me. You have to choose me. If you're willing to let me forge it, I'll become your personal blacksmith in future. I'll do anything you want. Get out of the way, get out of the way." "Ah! Human friend, my respect and awe towards you know no limits. If you're willing to let me forge that mysterious red sun gold, you'll be my father." Ling Chen, email protected, $%. The dwarves lost all of their self-control upon seeing the mysterious run sun gold. All of them were staring at him with delirious eyes. The dwarves' obsession with high-quality materials was far greater than he had expected. "Shut up. All of you shut up. Do you have no shame? Stop embarrassing yourselves." Dwarf Chief Dillo roared. After yelling out 5 times, the dwarves finally calmed down, but they continued to stare fixatedly at the mysterious red sun gold in Ling Chen's hands. After everyone settled down, Dwarf Chief Dillo walked up to Ling Chen, and looked at him intently, causing goosebumps to rise up on Ling Chen's skin. After a while, he finally spoke, "Friend. Human friend. You are indeed our dwarf clan's closest friend. If you want, you can enter the palace at any time." No, I'll take you right now." Ling Chen. Integrity? What integrity? Did they feed it to the dogs or something? Seeing the dwarves trembling and drooling, Ling Chen wanted to yell at them. Where the hell was your integrity? Even the dwarf chief, who was originally the calmest, and looked hundreds of years old, was trembling as he came in front of Ling Chen. His small body leaned forwards by 30 degrees, and the burning look in his eyes was like a 30-year-old virgin looking at a naked goddess. Just a few minutes ago, these dwarves were so scared that they probably had wanted to kick him out. Now, even if Ling Chen wanted to leave, they would probably beg him not to. Seeing the dwarves' reaction, Ling Chen couldn't find any words to say. It was just a piece of mysterious red sun gold. Why were they overreacting so much? You're dwarves. The incredibly intelligent, talented and proud dwarves. Visitor from the outside world, no, most esteemed visitor, no, our closest friend, let me once again welcome you here. Your appearance has caused this dark place to become filled with light. Please excuse my rudeness from before. Please come with me, I'll immediately bring you to our holiest palace." As Dwarf Chief Dillo spoke, he turned and gestured with his arms, inviting Ling Chen in. All of the dwarves hurriedly made way for Ling Chen, and stared at him intently. It was as if they were worried that if they blinked, Ling Chen would disappear. "Well, thank you, Dwarf Chief Dillo." Ling Chen was finally able to say something as he started walking. He had come here to find an orb. On the bright side, the dwarves throwing away their integrity for a few rocks was beneficial to him. "You are our dwarf clan's closest friend, please don't be so courteous with us," Dillo said with a smile. Ling Chen's body stiffened. He simply couldn't feel comfortable with Dillo acting so shamelessly. Dillo led the way, and a large crowd of dwarves followed behind them. As they walked, more and more dwarves joined the throng. At first, they had been scared upon hearing that a human had entered. However, once they heard that he had brought rainbow agate, a spatial stone and mysterious red sun gold, all of them nearly went crazy, and immediately went to follow him. After passing through a long tunnel, they reached a large set of stone doors. Every 10 meters or so, there would be 2 lights on the walls, so they were never walking in darkness. There were 2 large stone doors that were a green-white color, and were tightly closed. Ling Chen and Dillo walked to the front, and when they were 3 meters away, the stone doors automatically opened. Holy crap, automatic doors? Friend, please enter. After Ling Chen walked in, the doors closed, and the room they were in started to rise. Ling Chen suddenly realized. What the fudge? It's an elevator. That's right, an elevator. Of course, this world probably didn't use electricity, so the elevator probably wasn't powered by electricity. Although the elevator rose quite slowly initially, he didn't feel uncomfortable. As it continued to rise, it began to accelerate, and soon, Ling Chen couldn't even tell that they were rising. Even the noise from the machinery was barely audible. It was pretty much the same as the best elevators he had taken in the real world. Moreover, this elevator was incredibly large. Apart from himself and Dwarf Chief Dillo, there were 40 other dwarves. From the looks of it, having another 40 to 50 dwarves in here would be no problem at all. Ling Chen couldn't help but wonder just what was powering such a massive elevator. And how did such small dwarves create such a thing? It was simply incredible. And furthermore, they had done it in such a hidden place. After rising for a while, the elevator stopped. Ling Chen roughly estimated how high up they were, and found that they had risen by at least 300 meters. Even in the real world, building an elevator that could rise by 300 meters was an incredible feat. Not only was it incredibly difficult to build, but designing it was difficult as well. Ling Chen simply couldn't help but marvel at the dwarves' talents. Was this elevator created by your clan? Ling Chen asked. As soon as he spoke, he felt like smacking himself, because to the dwarves, it could seem like he was doubting their prowess in forging and engineering. Indeed, Dillo did not seem offended at all, and instead smiled. Our talents in forging and engineering are our treasure. Our capabilities far exceed what you have seen. If we weren't stuck here, AI, let's not talk about that. Welcome to our home. The doors of the elevator slowly opened. From Dillo's sigh, Ling Chen could tell that the dwarves didn't seem to want to stay here. After all, although they were protected here, they were limited in what they could do. After the stone doors opened, the scene that greeted Ling Chen's eyes left him in a daze. There was no need for lights, as it was incredibly bright outside. It was as if they had stepped into another world. A multitude of structures greeted Ling Chen's eyes, and the scene continued as far as the eye could see. It was an incredibly large place, and was almost equivalent to a small city. The dwarf houses were a bit smaller than human houses, and the styles were completely different too. Ling Chen looked around, and couldn't find any buildings or structures that were identical. Not only were they all beautiful, they were all meticulously constructed. Every single door and window had an air of elegance and beauty. Very soon, Ling Chen found that all of the structures here were made of stone, and only stone. This is our home. We're at the top of the tallest mountain. Back then, our ancestors painstakingly spent a long time in making the top of the mountain flat, so we could live here. As such, the materials we use are limited, and we can only make crude houses like these ones. I'm sure they're much inferior to what you humans have, Dillo said embarrassedly. So this was the top of the mountain next to the sleeping mountain giant. The dwarves had been hiding here all along. They had the mountain giant guarding this region, and the entrance was so well concealed. No wonder they had never been found before. Ling Chen shook his head, sincerely saying, "No, your houses are definitely much more beautiful than human houses. To be able to create such beautiful houses with only stone, only the dwarf clan could do such a thing." Hearing Ling Chen's heartfelt praises, the dwarves all revealed expressions of pride and satisfaction, and their impression of Ling Chen improved even more. Dwarves were quite proud, and liked to be praised. They liked to receive acknowledgement and validation from people who saw their works. Dillo chuckled and replied, "Friend, let's go to the palace. However, keep in mind that there are many treasures left behind by our seniors. Those things are things that we worship. As such, unless we permit it, please do not touch anything. Apart from the things left behind by the ancestors, you can request to take away anything." "Alright, I definitely won't touch anything," Ling Chen nodded. "Well then, welcome to our home." Ling Chen's arrival caused a huge stir in the dwarf clan. The first dwarves who had lived here had died long ago, but had left the command to never leave this place. As such, the dwarves currently living there had never met any outsiders, so their shock was to be expected. However, when they heard that Ling Chen possessed a legendary spatial stone and mysterious red sun gold, they became 10 times more excited. It could be said that the entire clan exploded into excitement. While walking on the streets, crowds of dwarves rushed over, following behind them, hoping that they would get to see the legendary mysterious red sun gold. Ling Chen could only sigh. The dwarves' obsession with high-quality materials was simply incomprehensible. In the end, there was a massive crowd of dwarves, both male and female, following Ling Chen around. There were toddlers, there were elderly dwarves with walking sticks, as well as pregnant women. This could be said to be the most momentous day for the dwarves in thousands of years. Even Dwarf Chief Dillo couldn't gather this many dwarves so quickly. More and more dwarves arrived, and countless burning gazes fell on Ling Chen's body. Ling Chen started to feel quite awkward, and even considered throwing out the mysterious red sun gold. If he did so, it was possible that the heavens and earth would be shaken, and rivers of blood would flow. "Chief Dillo, how many dwarves are there in total?" Ling Chen asked in a soft voice. This question caused Dwarf Chief Dillo to look a bit dejected. "Right now, there are less than 30,000 dwarves. Over the past few hundred years, our numbers have been on the decline. Every year, many dwarves starve to death. They all starve to death." Ling Chen turned around and looked at the crowd behind him. The dwarves were not only short, but were incredibly skinny. Most of them were only skin and bones, only their heads were quite large. From a distance, they looked like a wave of dolls with big heads. While he silently thought, he remembered what Chiyu had said previously, "Weird, the dwarves are short, but they shouldn't be so skinny and weak-looking. Rather, they should be muscular and well-built. Why do they look like this?" The dwarf clan's palace was not too large, and didn't seem very magnificent. Upon arriving, Ling Chen noticed that the raucous crowd of dwarves behind him became incredibly silent, and did not make any noise. Every dwarf's expression became quite heavy. It seemed that this really was the most holy place to the dwarves. Ling Chen did not call out Xiao Hui. Suer's information, that there was a mysterious palace past the eerie mountain ridge in the east, had already been proven to be true. This meant that he could fully trust what Suer had said. As such, there was definitely an orb within this palace. "Please enter." The palace's stone doors were opened, and an incredibly old dwarf, older than Dillo, walked out. He looked at Dillo, and calmly said, "Chief Dillo, you've come." Just as he spoke, he saw Ling Chen, and he lost his composure as he yelled, He is? Elder Dita, please don't worry, he is a human, but he is a visitor sent here by our guardian god," Dillo immediately explained. Although he was the chief of the dwarf clan, he was incredibly respectful towards this elder called Dita. "What? Human? We've been discovered by humans. Since the guardian god allowed him to come in, he probably can be trusted. However, even so, why did you bring him here?" "This is our holiest place, we can't let any outsiders enter," Elder Dita said loudly. But, Dwarf Chief Dido looked at Ling Chen, then walked up to Dita and said in a small voice, "He brought a legendary spatial stone, as well as the mysterious red sun gold that our ancestors spent their entire lives searching for." "What?" Elder Dita, who was hunched over at a 60-degree angle, jumped up like a monkey. his old eyes staring at Ling Chen. His white beard and eyebrows trembled, and the look of suspicion in his eyes was instead replaced with one of fervor. He quickly walked forwards, and stood to the right of Ling Chen, as he smiled widely. "Esteemed visitor, please excuse my rudeness. This is our dwarf clan's palace, and my job is to guard this palace. For you to come here is our honor. Please come in. If you need anything, please tell me. Oh, and also, although I guard this place, my forging abilities have never declined. Within the entire dwarf clan, there are less than 3 dwarves whose skills are superior to mine. No matter what material it is, I can, ahem. Dwarf Chief Dido coughed loudly, and cut Dita off as he took a step forward. "Wasting our visitor's time is quite disrespectful. Friend, please follow me." Only Dwarf Chief Dido and Elder Dita went into the palace with Ling Chen. All of the other dwarves could only wait outside. Normally, dwarves could not enter the palace without permission. This palace was in the center of the dwarves' home, and looked like it had been there for a very long time. Although it looked quite ancient, it was not decrepit or dusty in the slightest. Within the palace, there were many display stands. On top of the display stands were weapons, equipment, and items. Knives, swords, spears, staffs, bows, daggers, heavy armor, light armor, decorations, jewelry. There was every type of equipment and item, some of which Ling Chen didn't even recognize. Within this palace are the most excellent works of our clan from the ancient times until now. Most of them are equipment. After all, forging is our life. For every dwarf, having their works placed in here is the greatest honor they can receive, Elder Dita explained. These are the greatest works in the entire world. Can I have a closer look? Ling Chen asked. The dwarves were the most talented beings at forging and engineering, and these were their best works over the ages. Even the worst piece of equipment or item was bound to be amazing. Of course. Dwarf Chief Dillo replied. Ling Chen walked towards the right, and looked at the machete that was closest to him. Ancient Moon 7-star machete, type, double-handed sword, grade, gold, equipment requirements, warriors above LV 50. Forged by the dwarf Dilyalu 2,300 years ago. The machete is made from fine iron that has been refined hundreds of times, combined with cold iron. It is shaped like a crescent moon, and has 7 stars carved upon it. It is incredibly heavy and incredibly sharp, and can easily destroy wood and stone. Stats: physical attack power plus 410, constitution plus 20, agility 10, attacks have a chance of knocking back the enemy. Ling Chen, Ancient Moon 7-star machete, a LV 50 weapon. This was the highest leveled weapon Ling Chen had seen in Mystic Moon. Its stats were quite high, as it was a LV 50 gold grade weapon. But why was it a gold grade weapon? The dwarves were the most talented beings at forging, and were described to be gods of forging. If it wasn't for other beings wanting to exploit them for their heaven-defying talents, they wouldn't have had to hide away. The dwarves had hidden away for over 10,000 years, and only the best works were kept in this palace. So why were there gold-grade equipment in here? What was going on? Gold-grade equipment were valuable, but they shouldn't be in such a place. No way. Someone must have put it here by accident. Ling Chen looked at the other equipment around it. Moonfang axe, type, double-handed axe, grade, gold. Clear wind splitting water sword, type, single-handed sword, grade, gold. Cloud covering hexagonal whip, type, whip, grade, gold. Dragon abyss battle armor, type, upper armor, grade, gold. Ling Chen looked from left to right, top to bottom, and his face became more and more distraught. He looked through 70 to 80 pieces of equipment, but they were all gold grade. All of them were gold grade. There was not a single celestial grade equipment, much less heaven's end grade. Having so many gold grade equipment in one place looked quite impressive. Any normal player would drool upon seeing such a sight. However, this was where all of the best works of the dwarves were kept. There was definitely something wrong. Ling Chen had initially believed that with the dwarves' prowess in forging, the worst equipment in here would be at least celestial grade, and top-tier celestial grade equipment at that. Even if there weren't any mysterious god grade equipment, there should be at least some heaven's end grade equipment, right? Ling Chen had thought that celestial grade equipment could only barely make it in, and gold grade equipment weren't even qualified to be in here. How could there be so many gold grade equipment in here? These are the best equipment here? Gold grade equipment? Ling Chen knew that asking something like this could offend the dwarves, but he simply couldn't help but ask. Dwarf Chief Dido and Elder Dita looked at each other and bitterly laughed. Elder Dita nodded and sighed before saying, "Indeed. These are the best works of our dwarf clan in recent times. I know what you're feeling confused about. Although we've been hidden away for so long, there are still many legends about us in the Forgotten Continent. After all, our forging skills are not something that can be easily forgotten. Our ancestors have created many Heaven's End grade weapons before, as well as mysterious god grade weapons. The mysterious god grade weapons became many cities' guardian weapons. Moreover, back then, our clan even created indestructible Saint Destroyer weapons. You know, most of the Saint Destroyer weapons in the Forgotten Continent were left behind by the true gods in the ancient area. After the gods all died, no other creatures could create Saint Destroyer weapons, except our dwarf clan." Speaking to here, Dwarf Chief Dillo and Elder Dita smiled with expressions of pride, and Elder Dita raised his head as his voice became more emotional. Not only that, our ancestors even created a forbidden weapon that surpassed even the Saint Destroyer weapons. This forbidden weapon became a powerful clan's guardian weapon, and with it, even the Moon God clan didn't dare to attack them. Although much time has passed, our intelligence and pride haven't decreased at all, and I'm sure we're still remembered in the outside world. However, all of what I just talked about has become the past. AI, Elder Dita sighed dejectedly. Indeed, all of that has become the past, and will remain in the past. Dwarf Chief Dillo also sighed. He looked around at the things in the palace as he said, "Our pride has become but a legend. Now, creating a silver-grade piece of equipment is something to be proud of. Creating a gold-grade piece of equipment can shake the entire clan. But with your talent and intelligence, even if creating gold-grade equipment is difficult for normal blacksmiths, surely it should be incredibly easy for dwarves," Ling Chen said, confused. Dwarf Chief Dillo laughed grudgingly, "You're right. Creating gold-grade equipment is something incredibly simple for us. However, we need materials. Even a world-class chef, if he only had grass and dirt, can't create a dish that is fit for a world-class restaurant. This principle applies to us as well. In order to comply with our ancestors' wishes, we have lived in this sealed world. However, this place only has stones, sand and dirt, as well as some trees and grass. How can we possibly create high-grade equipment?" Ling Chen, Dwarf Chief Dillo walked forwards and picked up a thin single-handed sword as he disappointedly said, "This coiling dragon shadow sword was forged by me, and is my best work and my pride. I was overjoyed that it was placed in the palace. Do you know how long it took me to forge this gold-grade sword? AI, 300 years, a whole 300 years. True forging takes very little time, but in order to create adequate materials, I had to refine countless stones. Over the course of 300 years, I can't even remember how many I've refined. This gold-grade sword took up nearly half my life." Ling Chen, at this moment, Ling Chen suddenly realized why the dwarves had reacted in such a way when they saw the rainbow agate, spatial stone and mysterious red sun gold. That was why they had discarded all of their dignity and integrity. To them, these things were things that they could normally only dream of. After hiding themselves away, the dwarves were safe, but their talents and bodies were locked in this small space. They could only use the materials that they could find on this mountain. As time passed, materials became harder and harder to find. in the end, this race that had once created Heaven's End grade, Mysterious God grade, and even Saint Destroyer grade equipment had fallen so low that they took pride in gold grade equipment.